You're.
It's time for some hostile therapy.
Should be my order.
All
Oh
right,
shit.
welcome to Hostile Therapy on Thursday with Biggie Red. With me and LT up here so far, Lord Trent.
You're.
Welcome y'all to the show again this week. How's it been going, man?
You know what I'm saying? Maxing, relaxing, like not in Anglo-Saxon. Gotta find a like an Etruscan, maybe, as I get deeper into the genealogical web. I imagine. Sorry, my neighbor getting my packages again. Shout out to Amazon or FedEx for always trying to give away my shit.
Oh, there we go. We got Breezy.
What up, Breeze?
Hey,
What's going on, Breezy?
how you doing?
Doing okay. Okay.
Yeah.
How's your week been?
A little busy. I got a little cold, so if I sound like Teddy P or Barry White, y'all gotta excuse me. It's not my normal voice.
I thought you were gonna say it was something like Wheezy or something. Wheezy Jefferson. You know, at least she's a woman at least. But that
Oh, my voice, I don't know, it's deep. I called my aunt today. She didn't know who it was. Like, who it is?
she thought it was somebody trying to hit on her. She was like, who's this man trying to call me?
That was me, Auntie. My throat is messed up. I'm drinking tea and everything. It happens.
I'm glad to have you on. So,
Oops.
don't pass out on us now. I thought you were about to pass out.
I'm not gonna pass that. I'll get myself together here.
Tonight's gonna be an interesting night, I think.
Is it?
Yeah, because we're going. Well, for one, because of the main topic that was of Larry Elder on the Breakfast Club, but we also got a game that we're going to do tonight, and you kind
Oh,
of just
shit.
in time.
Uh-oh.
It's going to be a competition between you and LT unless somebody else comes on. But it's going to
Oh,
be a competition between you two. See how much knowledge you got.
oh boy, here we go. I'll go like we in school.
Kind of, but it's a game show. We don't have any prizes because we broke over here, so we can't give you nothing right now. We can give you a pat on the back, like school. We'll give you
Okay.
a gold star.
Good for you. You did well today. One of those?
Yeah, I went to Dollar Tree, got a whole package of gold
Ah.
stars
Oh wow.
with the cheap sticker on the back of it. It's gonna fall
That'll
off
work.
once you put it on the wall.
Reminiscent.
Yeah.
Okay.
But yeah, this is how's you. Besides you being sick, how's your week been? Any new news report? Good news, bad news report?
Oh, it's always bad news, you know.
Check the mailbox, right?
Every time you turn on the TV. I don't even watch TV like I used to anymore.
Mm.
What did I just see on the news about Trump? He got to turn himself in again.
Again, right?
That's one person that can do so many crimes, but don't seem to be
You don't seem to ever do no jail time though.
no boy. I never seen nobody be indicted so many times before. My gosh, he take the word indictment to a whole different dimension.
Hey, when you got big money like that, you can avoid going to prison like us regular folks. Us broke folks go to prison for a long time, but he just takes a vacation to prison.
I'm trying to tell you,
He takes a tour to prison. Let's put it that way.
it's crazy. But that was it. I mean, Nothing else going on. How about yourself? How you been?
I've been pretty good. I've been pretty good. I actually reached a milestone. I don't want to call it. I don't know what it's called.
Call
Milestone.
it the milestone.
Okay. Well, I don't know if it was a milestone or achievement, but I did get my hands right. See, I'm pointing to the opposite direction. I met him yesterday. Met him in person.
Get up the hill.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that was a milestone.
How did that happen?
Oh, we cooking up stuff. We're gonna cook up some stuff for later. Well, it's not be tonight, but we're gonna cook up some stuff
Nice.
that's gonna appear on the show and here in the atmosphere of social media coming very soon.
Yeah. We're feeding these kids to the metaverse, to quote
Right.
Jack Harlow.
Got some interviews, some interesting interviews is gonna come up, and yeah, y'all gotta stay tuned for that.
Touching some.
Right. I like
It's gonna get a
that.
little deep.
Really?
Pun very intended.
Uh-oh.
Yeah.
That sounds good.
Yeah, let's see. But yeah, we found out we're not even that far from each other. We're probably like not even 10 minutes. Probably like 8 minutes from each other.
Oh, wow. Small world.
Right. I was like, how the hell we didn't like meet up before? I don't know.
Because I really don't be nowhere but the damn house. That's it.
Yeah, that's kind of me. Except when I'm at work, but that's about it.
I work from the house.
Y'all stay inside?
I try to. It's dangerous out here. I've been staying inside since COVID, and
He said, it's dangerous out here.
Staying alive, staying alive.
I'm scared of people, diseases, and
Yeah.
state laws.
Yeah. You know, at one point I had, I don't really like crowds, but I had, I wasn't wearing my mask.
Mm-hmm.
Now I think I'm going to start going back wearing like I used to, because there's little rumors going around after COVID. It never left, but it seemed like
Yeah.
it stirred back up again.
I am hearing about that. That there may be some
Yeah.
new strands or something all of a sudden, and it may be making people go back if the numbers go back. But
They y'all out here thinking that COVID was done. It was like, all right, we back to the lab on their ass.
Mm-hmm. I don't think it ever left, but you weren't hearing anything about it.
We
But
need a stronger patent.
yeah, I mean, I still hear people getting sick every now and then, but
Yeah.
Stronger
they don't
mixture.
really be sick like they were 2 years ago, or they're not dying like they were.
I think it's time to go back to that to the mask normally. Like once in a while I'll wear it, but I think it's about time I just wear it every time I go out.
It wasn't wearing.
I'm kind of scared of that though. I mean, I know in New York y'all was strict. Wow,
Yeah.
people could go in certain buildings, restaurants, or work.
Yeah.
Period.
Yeah.
That's what I was worried about coming back. I don't want that to happen again.
Yeah,
And that's me, and I don't even leave the house. That's me saying that.
yeah.
Like I like being the only person that stays home. I don't want to. Whenever I do leave, I want to have a chance to go amongst the commoners or whatever. But for the
I
most
can't do the shit
part,
that I want to
right.
do when I go out. That's why I'll be going nowhere. I'm not allowed to do things that I'd like to do.
Yeah. It's rough out here. Scary.
Well, before we start off with the regular conversation that we're going to have tonight, I want to present something that represents what happened. Well, actually, what we talked about last week. We talked about okay, I can hear myself better now. Talked about that Alabama brawl thing that happened last week. And I figured, why not make something that kind of celebrates what happened in that fateful day. So I'm going to show something that people can wear proudly amongst themselves. And let me see who's out. So let me find it before I end up losing it. Like I already lost it already. I had it ready to present, and now I can't find it.
Just don't lose yourself.
Now I done lost it. Now I can't find it.
No.
Talk amongst yourself. I'll go find it.
You never, you know what I'm saying? You got to be sure to not lose yourself in the moment that you want it. You better never let it go. You know, you only get one shot.
Shoot.
So you can't miss your chance to blow. This opportunity comes once in a lifetime. That is obviously copyrighted by the Universal Music Group and known as Ricky Bobby.
See, we tried that yesterday. See, well, I hope that actually works. I don't think that works.
I don't know if it works, but I could, if, in a court of law, I could literally say that I said that.
Right.
Unless they like try to rewind it and freeze frame it by every fraction of a second. I said something legal in there, so we're good. I said copyright. I said Universal Music Group. I'm just applying that to everybody. Universal Music Group, Interscope, Time Warner, whatever the fuck, everyone who's in control. I used the song, but I'm allowed to use the song because I referenced it. The song does not belong to me.
Mm-hmm.
That's all you have to do. I don't know if that's how that works, but I don't think that's all you have to do.
All you got to do is say, I don't own it, therefore I can't make money off of it.
Right.
Because that's what those people are all about.
Yeah, because we used something yesterday that we could get in trouble with copyrights.
You did?
Well,
Just
LT
pull it
used
to
something.
find it.
I'm not gonna say what it is, but it's something very popular that he used yesterday. I don't want to give away too many details, but LT trying to get us like negative millions in debt. We're just trying to keep our head above water, man.
Technically, the American populace is already trillions in debt. So by living in this country, you're already partially in debt.
Just by living here, huh?
By law of location. That's what it's called in the Hermeneutics.
So you saying you trying to play something?
No, it wasn't even trying to play something. It was something he said that I said, man, what we
That could be a
recorded.
number of things. That's why I can't remember.
He said a number of things that is going to get us in trouble. I said, I don't know if we can use that, man. We're going to get in trouble. You know how we can't play music and stuff like that unless it's under the Fair Use Act.
We're gonna have to get OnlyFans for me.
Now, is that only for people that's monetizing their art?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, you have to be.
Well, it can be. Well, let me take that back a little bit. It can be. You, if you're monetized, you can't use certain stuff because they'll consider that you're using someone's merchandise to make money off of.
You can't use it without paying them first, and then if you do use it, they can sue you.
Yeah.
Now, what if you're not monetizing?
If you're not monetized,
You just got
you are using under like the Fair Use Act, if you're if you're talking about the item and it's shown that you're not using it like for monetary purposes, then yeah, you can use it. But
okay.
if you're like putting it up there and you're not commenting on it or nothing like that, you just almost like you're trying to sell it on your own.
Right.
Yeah.
I think that if you're not monetizing, you use things. You just still should say, I don't owe the rights on the copyrights and all that crap. I think you should still say it.
Yeah, it's a lot of rules to it. It's not as easy as just saying no. I'm not using it for monetary.
Also,
purposes.
we can't use their shit without having to pay them. Meanwhile, they can use all of us without having to pay us for shit. That might have been what I said. I might have pointed a finger at a couple people. That's probably why.
You over there starting trouble, Lord Trent?
Yeah.
I don't know anything, but this world was born.
Like on my podcast, sometimes I might throw a little something on there. You know.
Whatever fire you got, I am the ultimate gasoline.
It sucks that you can't throw a little music and stuff like that on there. And
I mean, I get it.
a little sample.
I get it.
They want you to pay them first, like a restaurant. You know what I'm saying? They get paid or jukeboxes. Jukeboxes still exist, and that is literally just a portion of the music industry, like an ancient relic from the fucking 30s, 40s, and 50s. That is still $1 million probably $1 billion industry because you'll just find a jukebox in a restaurant, random bar, random pool hall, random tobacco shop, random gas station that has lottery, so they just got people in there all fucking day. You know what I'm saying? So if you could just play music off of your phone, you still paying somebody for that. You still paying Apple, you still paying Spotify, Pandora, or something. But there are so many facets and avenues of which the music industry is set up to be exactly that, an industry. And the art part where you just share it with people, that's all gone. That's monetized. As soon as we started this NFT shit where you could literally just buy a digital image and share it, and or not even share it, but sell it to others online and it's still digital, I knew that we live in the metaverse. We live in the metaverse, and we're literally gonna start using goddamn fucking memory sticks for money. That's gonna be your wallet. How many gigs? How many gigs you got on your shit? How many gigs you got on your hard drive?
All right, I got it now.
So
Just a
deep.
minute, to find it, but okay, I got it now. All right, so here's the thing that was going to commemorate what happened in the Alabama brawl. So, okay, let's go ahead and present it right quick and make sure the screen is big so you can see this. 'Cause it's gonna be a big deal. All right, here we go. This is what we got. We got the Fuck Around and Find Out t-shirt. You can find this at hostile Get it right now. You can get it for $20.
You funny?
Yeah. See, check it out. Oh, we want to make it a little bigger. Yeah, well, I just screened this out. Yeah, you can get this t-shirt right here and commemorate what happened on that fateful day. It's a puzzle. We already told you how to solve it, but wear it around your friends and see if they can guess it.
One t-shirt is $20, but if you buy 5, you can get them for $100.
That is great math there, LT.
All
That'd
right.
be good.
Great savings.
Yeah.
Usually they are at 25. But we got a
Save the
discount
shit, but
at
having to buy it 5
$20.
more times.
Wow.
All right. So let's get into the first thing for today. Let's talk about the Larry Elder interview that was on the Breakfast Club. And this is an example right here, Preezy, I can show you. This is going to be under fair use where we can talk about this. Can't play the entire interview, but we're going to play bits and pieces and comment about it. And I'm going to share the screen. Larry Elder, who is a Republican, Trump enthusiast, sounds like anyway. He is running for president.
Oh,
he went on the Breakfast Club. And he used to have a judge show too. He was one of those group of judge shows that was coming out where judge shows were very popular.
His name was Larry Brown or
Larry Elder.
Larry Elder.
Yeah. And he had one for quite a few years. There was Judge Joe Brown, Larry Elder, Judge Judy, Judge Mathis, Judge Maybelline, Judge Hatchett, the other white lady with red hair that was a little bit younger. I think her show just finally went off. But he was in that era of judge shows that was going like crazy 10, 15 years ago. So now he is running for president. Went on the Breakfast Club, and I thought he presented pretty endearing, deep argument for saying what is the problem that's causing disarray in the black community. There was a lot of pushback from Charlemagne, a little bit from DJ Envy, and the other lady up there. I have to figure out what her name is. Do not have her name right now.
Just hilarious.
No, not just hilarious. It was somebody different. Somebody different this week, but
insert lady here.
Yeah, that's what they seem to be doing. Is having different panels up there each week.
Fact that they started
Different ladies up there. I don't know. I don't think they're ever gonna have a permanent host. That seems to be their thing now.
I don't think they care.
They don't have to. They got good ratings with just DJ and Charlemagne. But
They're
I'm gonna play
their own right,
I'm gonna play some of this interview. We're gonna hit play and stop, and then I'm gonna get you guys' opinion on certain things that Larry Elder says about systematic racism in America.
Word. See what the fuck going on. So,
All right.
Corner of Hollywood and Vine, southeast corner. Just saying.
Okay.
I didn't know you had a star in Hollywood Walk of Fame.
Yeah,
Man.
yeah. About a handful of radio guys do, and I'm one of them.
Yeah, I think it's you, Elvis Duran,
Angie
Howard
Martinez.
Stern,
Yeah.
Big Boy. Oh,
Angie
Angie
Martinez.
Martinez.
A guy named Arthur Godfrey.
Okay.
So
Now-
let's jump right into it. Why are you running for president?
Well, I'm running as an America First mega guy, and we have an America First mega guy running, obviously. So the question is, what do you bring to the table?
You say MAGA.
mega.
Okay.
And the answer is, I bring a lot of issues to the table that I feel our side is not talking enough about, if at all. For example, the number one social problem in America by far is the epidemic not of COVID, but of fatherlessness. 70% of Black kids today enter the world without a father in the home, married to the mother, up from 25% back in 1965. Now 25% of white kids enter the world today without a father in the home, married to the mother. And the stats are clear. Even Barack Obama once cited them. If you're raised without a dad, you're 5 times more likely to be poor and commit crime, 9 times more likely to drop out of school, and 20 times more likely to end up in jail. What's happened? In the mid-60s, with I think the best of intentions, a Democrat named Lyndon Johnson launched what he called the War on Poverty. And since then, we have incentivized women to marry the government and incentivized men to abandon their financial and moral responsibility. You know, when I say this to people, the pushback I get is, well, there are lots of things that are going on, systemic racism, poverty. Here's the problem. If you look at a young Black male aged 10 to 43, that's young to me because I'm 71 years old. A young Black man in that demo is 13 times more likely to be murdered than a young white man, same demo. Young Black man, real young, 19 and under, the number one cause of preventable death is homicide, almost always at the hands of another young Black male. Same demo for whites, the number one cause of preventable death is unintentional deaths. That includes drug overdoses, automobile accidents, drownings. It's not until they get to number 4 that death is the cause. In America, 60% of the shootings, the robberies, and the homicides are committed by Black people, often against other Black people. Of the homicides in this country, half of them are Black victims, almost all killed by other Blacks. How do you explain that if it isn't for the absence of fathers? Are you prepared to say Black people are just genetically inclined to commit more crime? I doubt it. And the go-to reaction often is poverty and systemic racism. Here's the problem. 1940, when there was blatant racism, this is before Brown versus Board of Education, before the Civil Rights Act of 64, KKK was still alive and well, 87% of Blacks lived under the poverty line. Now it's about 14%. You can't blame it on poverty. You can't blame it on racism. It is the breakdown of the nuclear intact family, and neither side is talking about it. The left doesn't talk about it because they caused it with the welfare state, and our side does not talk about it because if you're white, you'll be accused of dissing single moms who are heroically raising these kids, or you'll be accused of being a racist, or if you're Black, you'll be accused, as I was by the LA Times, of being the black face of white supremacy. Nobody's talking about that. I am.
What are the reasons, if your statistics are right, what are the reasons that you think fathers aren't in the home?
As I said, it's because in the mid-60s, Lyndon Johnson launched what he called the War on Poverty. In Charlemagne, literally, they sent social workers door to door in the inner city. I remember this, advising women of the availability of welfare provided there was no man in the house. It created an economic incentive for women to marry the government. Same thing with whites. In 1965, 8% of whites entered the world without a father in the home, married to the mother. Now it's about 25%, also up threefold. Look at census data, 1910, 1920, 1930, in places like Milwaukee, Chicago, Philadelphia, a young Black kid was slightly more likely to be brought into a world with a father in the home, married to the mother, than a young white kid. We have incentivized this kind of bad behavior, and it's had a disproportionately bad effect on the Black community.
Let me ask you a question. What do white people do wrong, Larry Elder?
What do you mean, what do white people do? I'm not worried about white people. I'm worried about what's going on with us.
But if there's systemic racism in this country, which we know it is.
No, I don't say there is. You say there is. I don't believe that.
Oh, you don't believe there's
No,
systemic
there used
racism?
to be, obviously. Tell me what you think the number one systemic example of systemic racism is in America.
Oh man, there's so many.
Just give me the most important one you think.
At the top of mind, I'd probably maybe mass incarceration. Maybe.
Really? During the Great Depression, when 50% of Black adults were unemployed, you didn't have this kind of mass incarceration. It's the breakdown of the family. There's a direct.
I'm not going to. I agree with the family part. I'm a Black man who is a father to his children, and I'm a happily married Black man to a Black woman. So I'm never going to argue with that part, But I just feel like
everything is black with you. Black is wrong. Black people do this and black people do that. And when I asked you what white people do wrong, you said you're not worried about white people at all.
I'm talking about the damage, disproportionate damage going on in the Black community. For example, look at these smash and grabs that are taking place in Los Angeles, where I live. There's a suburb called Glendale, where at a mall recently, a mob of 30 to 40 people, they had masks on, but one guy got popped. He was black. I think most of those who were doing this were black. And in recent years and times, there have been a number of these in places like Chicago, places like New York. If I were involved in something like that, Charlemagne, I grew up with a dad, just as you're raising your own children. I would have been more afraid of my father than I would about the cops catching me. These kids are afraid of neither. They don't have a father in the home. Cops are demoralized. They're pulling back. Their manpower is short. And as a result, you tell a bad guy you're less likely to be caught, convicted, incarcerated, crime goes up. They may be criminals, but they're not stupid.
Mhm.
When you say, what do white people do? I mean, this is a country that has struggled mightily to get over its historic racism. There was a civil war. There was a big civil rights movement. This is the only majority white country that's ever elected a black president, let alone reelected a black president. The three biggest cities in America are New York, Chicago, LA. They all have black mayors, even though no city has a majority of black population. The president of Harvard is a black female. Martin Luther King in 1966.
Yeah, I'm gonna pause it right there, right quick. Okay. Does anybody have any discrepancy of what he has said so far? Do you have a problem with what he said? And if you do, what's your perspective?
You know what? I don't disagree with anything that he's saying. Nothing that he's saying is wrong, and he has overwhelming amounts of facts and statistics to back it up. He is very well read, and yeah, like I'm not gonna meet one for 70 years old. He looks great, so
Looks great.
Yeah.
I'm giving him a compliment. You know what I'm saying? But yeah, he's not wrong. And I see what Charlemagne tried to do there. You know what I'm saying? Like it's a very common thing. Like, and both are fair questions. Charlemagne asked a fair question, and I feel like he gave a fair answer. I feel like if Dr. Umar was sitting right here, he would have the same response. You know what I'm saying? Like we can ask what about white people? It seems like white people are never. We know white people are at fault. We have to. If we're really trying to improve, it has to start with the self. We have to check in. What's Dr. Lamar was saying? Like we have to check in with ourselves and address those things that have actively held us back. If we have the information, if we have the knowledge, you know what I'm saying? Once you knew better, you do better. If that's truly where we're at, we have more knowledge than our ancestors did. We have more knowledge than our grandparents and our parents did. And this man is 70 years old. So he's sitting here as a person that has lived through these things. He's lived through these people that we walk around with on our shirts and whatnot. You know what I'm saying? So he's seen and put in the work, and he's basically calling us out and saying we haven't. Now this happens a lot. This like sometimes Candace Owens does shit like this too, but I feel like that's more for buzzwords, more for trending topics, more for a social media thing. I would love to look further into his actual politics to see what his stances and policies are. Like, because again, it's one thing to diagnose the problem. We know that there has been a lack of fathers in the household. We know that the government has played father figure for the black families for the past, I'd say for the past 4 or 5 generations. Damn near. So how do we, like another race is not going to come in and say, hey, we're going to stop doing that to y'all, because again, they still benefit from it. Why would anyone who is still benefiting from us being at the financial, economic, educational, whatever, like why would anyone who benefits from us being at the bottom extend their hand to the bottom and say, hey, we'll stop doing that to you? No, the answer starts with us. We have to start this. So, you know, it's a long interview. I'm kind of mad I missed it myself, but yeah, I would love to know exactly what his policies are. Like, are you just diagnosing a problem, solutions to a problem?
Okay, that's fair. Preezy, what do you have to say about what you've seen so far?
I agree with Lord Trent. I'd like to hear a lot more of what he's talking about, and you know, a lot of things he said was true. What But I can understand, like Lord Trent said about Charlamagne. He's constantly. It seems like he's constantly just focusing on Black people. Am I correct? Or what
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
we need to. Yeah, I understand what he's saying, but as the president, you need to focus on other communities and other races as well, not just black, because they, just because you don't hear it, don't mean that it's not happening. You know what I mean?
Right.
It's just that it's some reason Blacks are always ending up on the social media and stuff like that. But if you read a lot, there's a lot of other races and cultures that do a lot. You just don't hear about it. I know I read, and I read on different cultures, and believe it or not, a lot of things do not hit the news like our people.
Yeah.
But let's focus on. I understand the Black community, I get it, and not having fathers, yeah, that is a big thing in within families. So I would love to see changes in that, but how? You can't force a man to be a father. You can't force a man to stay. So how are we going to fix that? How can we fix that in all races, in all cultures? Because not every culture believes that. You got a lot of cultures that focus it's all about family, but the ones that have the problem, how do you fix that?
Right.
So I would like to hear a lot more about him and I'm sorry I missed this interview too, because I'm up on the Breakfast Club. I guess that was one day maybe I overslept. I don't know.
It's gonna pick up.
Yeah.
As we get deeper in it, what I'm gonna say about most of this interview is, to me, and I say this a lot on the show, even if there are and he talked about it too, where when he grew up before the civil rights era was implemented, and how bad they had it. Now, it was blatant racism. It's not to say that there's no racism today, but the way, and he's going to cite some statistics too later on about how they made it out and they got away from the poverty line and how it built businesses up and they helped their community out in that time. And we're nowhere near in disarray as they were back then, how racism affected them. I mean, people had to actually fear for their life all the time to the Klan or the policemen to actually beat up or try to kill them. And they knew the law was in their favor back then. It's not perfect now, but we have 100 times better. But look how bad we are now, and look how great I won't say great, but look how they picked themselves up by the bootstraps. It's not to say that there are no hurdles today. There were many more hurdles back then, and look at what they made of themselves. So that's the theme I would say is most of this interview goes on. Is we should be able to get ourselves out of the doldrums of where we're at the society in America right now, when we have so many more opportunities given to us compared to what they had in the past years. And he's going to talk about that a little bit more and give a few more statistics and talk about how things can be changed around. But I'm all about empowering. I don't want to just talk about what this person is doing, how they're treating us bad. If we're to believe that we are strong people, let's talk about how we can empower each other and stop just talking about what they did or what they're still doing. That doesn't fix anything. Complaining doesn't fix anything. But I'm gonna play the interview a little bit further. We'll probably skip a few parts because we don't be able to get through the whole hour of the interview, but I'm trying to get to the more juicier parts that got people talking.
Can I just say one thing?
Go ahead.
I'm sorry, I ain't came on today. As Mike Epps said, I'm up here looking like a booger whoop.
Wow.
You know what? I think
Ewok or something.
Oh God. Wait, look, y'all gonna stop. Don't be making me laugh. Oh geez. You know what? I think there is systemic racism. I know what the guy was saying, but Charlamagne, he speaks out of both sides of his mouth. It's like pick a fight. You know what I mean? Just pick one that we could be like, all right, Charlamagne, we riding with you. Because at one time he'll say something, and then next thing you know, either he's done it or he's like agreeing with something else. Like he flip flops too much. But I think part of the problem we have with systemic racism is, I think Red said it too. I know Trent, one of y'all said it, but because we don't really have any institutional power, right? So the reason why I say that, like, if we stop doing certain things, it doesn't change our economy. But we can get institutional. We can get it by even like the professional athletes. If only y'all would have took a knee. You're talking about 60, 70% of football, basketball took a knee and put together. Hey, we could have done it. Stop shopping just because or buying certain brands. Just because a celebrity come out with a certain brand don't mean we all have to do it. Stop going to the Asians and buying weaves and stuff. Go to our people. So many people have said this before. I know some of the Muslims have said it, other groups have said it, but we don't support each other, and that's a hard pill to swallow, because we don't support, we don't show up. I was just having this conversation last night with someone. I said, you know what the problem is? We talk, but we don't show up for each other. We do not do it unless it's something ratchet, crazy, or whatever. We have to show up. We have to support. We have to band together and stop just saying it, but actually do it.
Okay.
That's all I got.
Let me make one more point before we go a little bit forward. With
probably-
the homelessness, with not homelessness, but fathers not being in the home. For one, we got to start championing being a baby mama. I understand it's a situation that you didn't make per se. You did make it, but you don't want to be in it. But we need to champion more and make a bigger deal for fathers to be in the home. It has been incentivized. Well, I think he's going to talk about it a little bit more. It was incentivized for to be single mothers. Now, for everybody, but Lyndon B. Johnson incentivized mothers that, hey, we'll give you a certain amount of money and pay if you don't have the father in the home. Maybe something should be done about that. Maybe, not to where single mothers can't get help, but that at some point you got to get out of that welfare system. You can't stay in the welfare system forever, because there's some people that is in welfare that can easily get out of it, but they want to stay there because it's so easy. They don't want to work to try to get somewhere else or try to put themselves on a higher plane because they're used to being in the system.
Right.
Some of them, I see so many of them be in the welfare system, but I'm talking about mostly ladies, be in the welfare system and then try to do hair on the side to supplement their income. I'm like, you try to do that as a professional, and you can actually make way more money that way. But they don't want to do that because they're so used to it, and they've seen other generations do it, and they stay stuck there. And there's no need to bring another guy in there. They're just as happy as could be.
Right. But Red, can I just add to what you're saying? Okay. Now it's coming out, but I didn't realize how much. Get the welfare checks. They got welfare, but what about these people who putting their children on Social Security checks, telling them that something's wrong with them? Now the kids are adults, and they're like, look, I want to go get jobs. I want to go get this. They're like, no, you're going to mess up my check. Or they done kept them medicated so long that's what it is. But at the same time, some of our brothers are getting locked up for 100 years plus life for petty crimes. Like, let them out. Them people who, come on now, like somebody, the time is just astronomical now. But our women, Black women, we are designed, we've heard for so long, you don't need a man. You're independent. You're not independent. You're just responsible. Just because you pay a bill, keep a light on, take care of your kids, don't make you independent. I need a man. Like, cut all that out. Parents, stop telling your children that. Just don't say no. Just teach them how to live. But stop telling y'all girls you're independent. You're sounding ignorant. Come on now. But you're absolutely right. All y'all right. Oh God, I got started.
Well, that's the other thing that's missing with the guy in the home is the guy used to help the daughter vet, who was going to be a good guy for her.
Yeah, The first man or a woman.
Who's going to vet for her if the mother, who's dealt with somebody that has given her strife, if she's mad at men and she don't think she need a man, what do you think she's going to tell the daughter? She ain't going to tell you, hey, this could be a good guy right here. She's going to tell him, hey, as long as he treats you right, he's good. But the moment he start treating you bad, go ahead and leave. Don't matter if you got a kid by him or not. Let's just go Keke Palmer. Keke Palmer, you know, they had strife in their relationship. I know they're not married and whatever, but I just, you know, me and LT were talking about this. I don't understand how it's so easy to just end the relationship when you got a kid involved. It's like the kid is just secondary and it's all about your feelings. Yeah, you should look out for yourself too, but the time for you to look out for yourself is pretty much gone when you have a kid. You gotta now, your feelings are kind of secondary now. You gotta worry about your kid first now. But now many people just talking about, oh no, it's all about me. I can't be a good mother if I don't take care of myself. To a degree, I understand that, but you lost that privilege when you got pregnant. And you got to talk to these kids now, hey, it's a big deal just to have a kid. A kid is not a toy just to play with when you put it in the closet and take it out when you want to play with it. It's a huge deal. It's going to take parts of your life away, and you got to be okay with that. You can't be 100% happy and do everything you want to do like you're in a single life. Women and men, but mostly women, because women you're the ones that are going to have the baby. I'm saying having a baby, going through the 9 months, having a pregnancy. You have to vet better who you give your eggs to, who seed you accept. You have to vet better. You can't just give it to anybody. And the thing with our culture is unfortunately giving it up to just anybody that you don't know you cannot have a long-term relationship with. It's all short-term with some of these people. It's gratifying to pick somebody that just makes them feel good in the instant gratification. That's not a long-term setup for raising a family. And unfortunately, men and women are doing that. We're not vetting who we think are going to be good mothers. We're not vetting who we think are going to be good fathers.
But people change.
We can't do that change though. We can't go off of that.
People change. In the beginning, everything is all beautiful and flowers and trees and just everything is.
You mean change for the worse?
Yeah, people change through the years. It's not that you chose that person and say, you didn't know. I didn't know that he was going to change. Like people change. That people don't stay the same. So you can't really say, oh, you got to be careful who you choose.
Don't have a kid.
But maybe years down the line, they don't want to be with each other no more. And things happen, and things just turn for the bad. Not everything is beautiful flowers and tulips and
that's understood. I think we as a people, we just have to learn how to
trees, and it happens. Can't see the forest through the trees.
People change, but it's still most of the time they are leaving in the beginning of that change. They're leaving because now little things are not going right with them because maybe they
20, 30 years and decide. What about the couples that be with each other 40, 50 years and decide to divorce? 40,
okay,
50 years.
The kids are grown by then though.
I understand, but you still have children. It can still affect them. It doesn't matter.
Oh, they grown now. We ain't worried about them when they're 30.
Different types of people do things differently. You know what I'm saying? Like
if your parents divorce, no matter what, the family is still being divided. It can still affect you. It doesn't matter. But I'm just saying, sometimes people get with people and things just don't work out. It happens.
It happens.
The best thing to do is
every situation is unique, but there's context needed for those kind of situations.
You can still work as great parents towards the kid. It's not fair that you guys, just because you guys separated, you can't both parent. You can't be good. You can still be great parents. Just because you and mommy and daddy don't work out or vice versa.
Yeah.
You don't destroy the family like that. Because a lot of people, they have stayed in relationships for the children and they're miserable. You know what I mean? So you have a responsibility as parents, and you should still take care of your kids no matter what, even if we're not together.
I get what you're saying, but if that's the case, why is it happening at a disproportionate rate with our people than it is other races?
I don't
If
know.
we all dating out here,
That's what I was getting at. We're
why
seeing
is it happening?
more so than
We
anyone
Why
else.
is it happening at a disproportionate rate with just our race?
Because
It's vastly
we don't have the same values as other cultures. Like
Not
just
just-
like Dr. Umar said, a marriage between a man and a woman is two individuals, two families, two parties coming together. That is not only an emotional, a physical, a mental, and a spiritual connection. That is a business connection as well. We don't value that the same in our community as other communities do. And as you see throughout our culture, again, back to Keke Palmer, the way you said, like, she could get rid of this man so quickly, because we digest content that is negative towards our relationships and pretty much towards the Black family. This is something that, as the sister on last week was talking about, the CIA implemented. Like, it's a direct assault on the Black family to keep us apart, because that's how you actually build these things. Like, you're right, people should be able to, if something happens 20, 30, 40 years down the line in their relationship, because people are subject to change. We're humans. That's what people do over time. You know what I'm saying? You may wake up one day, it's like, you know what? I've liked blueberry pancakes for like 37 years of my life, but now I think I hate blueberries and I might be allergic to them. Like, the shit like that could happen. You're subject to change. But across different cultures, they handle their business a lot more securely, a lot more discreetly, because of these things created called laws, because marriage is also a legally binding connection as well. There's paperwork that has to be done for it. You know what I'm saying? There are, it's not something that we ever learn to take the time to get into. And as you were saying, like, we carelessly give ourselves away too much. We procreate more than anyone on this damn country. We are only 13% of the population or somewhere roundabouts, but we also attribute for, you're right, 60% of the incarceration rate. 60%, like, I feel like everything is just always 60% something. It's us, and it's in the negative field. And we only make up a minority of the population. So it's definitely intentional. It's definitely purposeful. And the things that we can start doing to move away from that is, again, we have to hold ourselves accountable on a very individual level. When we fall out with our loved ones, we have to understand that this isn't just even though I feel like this is just affecting me, there are people that still need me to function at a high level, i.e. the child that I created with this person. We don't know how to do that respectably sometimes. We don't know how to do that without being spiteful sometimes. We don't know how to do that without telling everybody about it sometimes. We don't know how to seek the proper help that we actually need to do so. We literally just turn to handouts sometimes, asking the government for lower income, fixed income foods. And we've all been there. We've all needed a handout sometime, but you depend on it. When you depend on it, you grow to a level of comfortability with stagnation. And that leads you to not aspire to own anything for yourself, to put the wealth that you put into brands that literally make millions and billions off of you, but put no money into the things that affect your community directly. Like, again, if we stop buying things, if every rapper that is a millionaire and raps about how rich they are actually empower their communities, there's still impoverished communities that they love rapping about how hood and broke and poor these places are, how dangerous it is. Why is it dangerous and you're a millionaire? Why are you, like, I don't know. I don't live in Brooklyn, but I don't know how safe, you know what I'm saying, the Nets stadium is. You know what I'm saying? I've heard Jay-Z rap all my life about how Marcy is, you know, so deadly, but when, you know, him being a billionaire, you would think he would have the time, the want to invest in his own community. So when we acknowledge that from our celebrities, not our leaders, because we don't have any leaders, we can acknowledge that from our celebrities, and we have to be our own leaders. You have to get involved at a city level. You have to get involved at a county level. You got to get involved at a state level. You got to learn things that aren't interesting to you because they purposefully made it not interesting to us. You got to learn exactly what needs to be done in order for you to govern yourself.
I'm gonna go back and play the video. I'm gonna play it for you a little bit more, and then we're gonna get back on the topic.
Charlemagne gave an interview to the BBC. This is 2 years after the Civil Rights Act of '64 got passed.
BBC.
And he said, I'm amazed at how many positive changes there have been in America in the last 2 years. Why, if things keep going like this, we could have a black president in about 40 years' time. Do the math. Right on cue, Barack Obama elected 2008. He didn't say there'll be a black female president of Harvard, and there has been. He didn't say there are going to be black CEOs of Fortune 500 companies, and there have been several. He didn't say the percentage of the House would equal the percentage of black people in the population, and it does. He didn't say the 3 largest cities would have black mayors, and they do. He didn't say the largest and most prestigious organization of doctors, the American Medical Association, would have 2 black presidents, and there have been. He didn't say the most prestigious organization of lawyers, the American Bar Association, would have 2 black presidents, and they have. He said president, meaning at that point, I can feel that I've reached the mountaintop, which is the speech he gave right before he got assassinated the day before. And now we act as if Barack Obama never even got elected. And we're still talking about systemic racism. It's not fair. It's wrong. And you're discouraging black people from working hard. 1990s.
Okay. Mr. Elder, a quick question. Let's just remove the word racism, since that seems to be a word that triggers, a conversation down the water hole. Let's just focus on the word system.
Okay.
You mentioned that the system was the one that discouraged. And again, we have no problem with agreeing that the family, the black family, should certainly has some room for some improvement. But let's just focus on system.
Room for
You said that the
improvement?
system. Well, we're not going to go down that water. We're
Okay.
not going to go down that water hole. Let's get to the question. So the question is, you said that the system encouraged black women to be single mothers, correct?
I said the welfare state, yes.
The welfare, the system. So who's in
Okay.
charge of the system? Who was in charge of the system?
Well, it was Democrats that passed it.
And who
The-
were
the-
Democrats? Were they black or white at that time?
Well, at the time, majority of black people were Democrats, as the majority of black people are Democrats
not
now.
the voters. I'm talking about the system. Remember, the main idea is the word system. Who was in charge of the system at the time? The Democrats at the time, the system. I'm just going to Charlemagne's point about white or black. Was it white Democrats in charge of the system or black Democrats in charge of the system?
Well, if you're prepared to say that Lyndon Johnson did this viciously with an intent to destroy the black family, I disagree. He did it with the best of intentions.
I didn't ask you that.
And if you look at the New York Times, which is left wing, the Washington Post, which is left wing, they cheered all of
Got it.
this.
Right, and what I'm asking was it white people, so I'm going to ask again in case my mic's not coming. White people in charge of the system or black people in charge of that system that helped break down the black family? It's a simple yes, just a simple question, white or black?
Well, you didn't have to go on welfare unless you voluntarily chose to go on welfare. The inducement was put there by Democrats, by
White
the
Democrats,
left.
correct? Okay. White
Well,
Democrats,
most
correct?
black people were Democrats, and they voted for these white people
Not
too.
voters. I said who's in charge of the
Who's in charge?
system?
Well, who
Who
puts
was
them,
in
who
charge?
put them in charge?
Was Lyndon Johnson
puts
white
him-
or black?
Who put them in
And maybe
charge?
that'll help you.
Fine, Lyndon Johnson was white.
Thank you.
Okay, but if
Charlemagne?
your argument is that the reason he did it is because of racism, then I
No.
disagree. He did it because of
That's not my argument. I just asked you a simple question. Was he white or black? Charlemagne?
And Mr. Elder, you said
Okay, I'm gonna stop it on there right quick. She's gonna be the loudest one in this interview. She's gonna go at Larry Elder quite a few times. What do you have to say about what she says about the system? I mean, she went hard at him. She wanted him to say white people put this in to hurt black women, to make them become single mothers. That's what I gathered from it. He was saying, well, black people are the one that voted for it. Now, as we were talking about earlier, we have the right to vote. We have the right to put who we put in office. And oftentimes we do go for the Democratic Republican candidates that are going to say what they're going to do, but they end up not doing it anyway. But we think they are the party of the black people for some reason, even though Republicans started off to be really the party of the black people, then it kind of transferred at some point to become Democrats. Do you think she has a point that it's just systemic white racism when it comes to the presidential candidates? Even today, I can understand back then, but today, do you think she has a point with what she was trying to say, that systemic racism still exists today when it comes to the political parties?
I get what she's trying to say. She's asking who's in charge, who's at the top. Like if you walk into a McDonald's and your order isn't ready when you expect it to be, you don't want to just talk to the cashier, you want to talk to the manager. So she's asking who are the politicians that were in charge that put these helpful, well-meaning institutions in place that for the Black family that, as studies show now, 40, 50 years down the line are hurting the Black family. Who put those institutions in charge? Was it Lyndon B. Johnson and his cabinet of white politicians? And yeah, that's the answer she was trying to get from him. And that's where that's why I said he has a very Candace Owens vibe to him as well. Because I'm wary of Black politicians like that. They'll say they're allowed to say anything and everything they want to disrespectful about Black people and what we doing and what we're not doing and what we need to be doing. But the minute you say something about, as Charlemagne did, kind of ignorantly, but as the sister came through and did more articulately, and more masculinely, Charlemagne.
We need her on this show.
She got killed.
Dope. Maybe something wrong with my mic. But I'm saying.
Because as you see, he did a very politician thing. He didn't want to answer her. Like, it was a simple, were they white or were they Black? The people in charge of the system that created the system, were they white or were they Black? Well, Black people voted for him. That's scapegoating. That's what he tried to do right there. Like, he tried to.
All politicians is.
You know what I'm saying? I'm not allowed to say nothing nasty about these white folks now. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's why I'm Republican or Democrat. I'm not even gonna play either one because they love playing right against each other. That was his immediate thing. It's like, well, the Black people that voted for him were Democrats. And Lyndon B. Johnson, his well-meaning white heart, like, okay, all right.
Yeah. And I agree with you, LT. The only thing I have a problem with her or how she did with this is what she had done. This was a Democratic candidate on the show. Charlemagne had went at the person. Look, and you're gonna see it happen later on when they get to talking about Joe Biden. Because you remember Joe Biden was on the show one time during his presidential run. They didn't have no smoke for him. They don't have smoke for a lot of these Democratic candidates when they come for them, but automatically there's some steam or smoke for Republican candidates as soon as they come up there because it's ingrained in our heads that Republican people are they're all racist. Now, it could be maybe half, maybe 25%, I don't know. But for some reason, we think the Democrats are for Black people, and I don't believe that's the case. And they don't question them as hard as they do Republican people. So if she's going to have the same smoke, have it for everybody across the board. Question everybody. That's all I say.
Who is this young lady? She's new on the show?
I don't know. I've never seen her before until this interview.
It ain't even about Democrat, but you know what, to the Democrat and Republican thing, yes, as Black people, we have this just explainable disdain for the Republican Party. But honestly, again, there's way more than there's way more than two political parties, but only two have ever been in charge, and it's always sucked to be Black in America. So when my maths that together, Democrat plus Republican minus one minus the other, take both, like add them, multiply them to the second power, they both suck. They're both like, if you watch South Park, it's literally the choice of a giant douche and a turd sandwich. They're neither one. It's the illusion of choice. You know what I'm saying? Like, these Republicans, I feel like, are more direct and more. Republicans, they know their audience. They're not coming. They know that they don't have to pander to Black America. They rather trigger Black America because their honest plan is to get rid of Black America. Same with Black Democrats, but Black Democrats would much rather get rid of Black America liberally or through some more weird, nefarious ass ways. Like, they're very shiesty and two-faced. They like to, you know what I'm saying? Honestly, a lot of them had slaves back in the
Big Red.
Like I said, Republican was not the party of Black people back then. Abraham Lincoln was a Republican. He's part of the reason why Black people were freed. Maybe not under the 100% as the condition where it's advertised as in history.
No political party has ever done anything for Black people because they truly wanted to help Black people. And that's all that matters to me.
Why don't you read your why don't you read the audience comments?
I would if I could say the name. I don't know what the name is for it, but okay.
Yeah,
I'll read this one.
Yeah,
Anderson,
because
your name?
Rico.
Well, I can't read them all during the show because that's just going to interrupt the flow of the show.
Oh,
Yes,
okay.
with the Republican Party, we know we're going to get. We know that they outwardly don't like minorities. They're
I'll read
very
them right before we do the video. I'll read them right before we do the video. I can't read them as they come in, but
Rico.
I'll read this one though. I'll go back and read this one right here. Democratic Party is not for the black people, is what people don't know because they tell you what you want to hear, like a car salesman, which I 100% agree with.
Good point.
As most politicians though, but the Democratic Party especially, and they've been getting away with it for a long time. I don't think either party does anything for the exact what they're supposed to do for black people. I don't think they have a purpose just to do something for black people, but they will do something that could be for the people, period, and would end up helping black people in the end.
They'll
Want
use
to help
black
people get out of poverty. I think they can speak on that with best plans they can put forward. They can get people out of poverty, and it just happens to help black people. But I don't think any of them are coming forward just to be on the forefront and say we're going to help black people. That may be secondary.
Meanwhile,
The other parties. Hold on, let me read this right quick. At least with the Republican Party, we know what we're going to get.
I don't like what
good or bad. Yeah, you may know what you're gonna get, good or bad.
It's bad. That's why I don't like it. That's why I don't like it. So that's why I'm like neither. I'm like neither.
That's fair. That's fair. I mean, you have every right. I like that you would have an open mind to hear both sides and not just go with one and say, hey, no matter what they say, they're the right party. And that's I think a lot of us do on our side is we just, well, I'm just Democrat. I'm just going to mark every. A lot of people do it. Go and vote Democrat, and then just go Democrat for every person running. No matter if you don't know anything of their policies, or they just check that box, everybody Democrat. No matter if I don't know them or not.
It's like picking a game.
Yeah, you're right. You're right.
It's really political. Like politics is really some legal game shit. You know what I'm saying? Like, because what do we do with our politics? It's literally just ways that people in charge of certain states can pump and tax those states, and then on a global level, it's a way that we can go over to other fucking countries and pump them, take oil from them, sex traffic through they shit and whatnot. You know what I'm saying? Extort and America is gang shit, bro. America and its politics are a whole lot of gang shit.
I'm gonna play the video right quick again. We're gonna get back to it. Sneeze, probably.
I'm talking. There's a cause and effect, but if we can't talk about the cause, which I believe is systemic racism and white supremacy, the FBI said.
Well, I just told you, if it's systemic racism, please explain to me how it was when America really had systemic racism in 1940. 87% of blacks lived under the poverty line. Again, this is during Jim Crow era. My father is from Athens, Georgia, grew up in Jim Crow. My mom is from Huntsville, Alabama, grew up in Jim Crow. 87% of blacks live below the poverty line. This is before Brown versus Board of Education. You did not find these kind of black on black crime.
Probably because we had no
but
choice.
They still were living below the poverty line, though, sir.
I'm sorry.
You're forgetting the fact that they were still living below the poverty line. You're picking and choosing, saying this was good, but this was bad.
Okay.
The bottom line, they end between the poverty line. But let's move forward.
Can I just address that? In 1940, 87% of blacks lived under the poverty line. 1960, that number had fallen to 47%. That's a 40-point drop in 20 years. That's the greatest 20-year period of economic expansion for black people in the history of America. Again, well before Brown versus Board of Education, well before the KKK imploded, well before we had race-based preferences. Why? Because it was rare for a black kid to be raised in a family without a father in the home. A strong belief in Judeo-Christian values, a belief in patriotism, even as America wasn't applying these values to black people, obviously. And a belief in entrepreneurship. All those things are now under assault by organizations like Black Lives Matter. Charlemagne, Black Lives Matter had on their website an attack on the nuclear family. The founders are self-described Marxists, trained Marxists. Marx wanted to dethrone God, was an atheist, and Marx did not believe in capitalism, let alone entrepreneurship. All the things that made black people still survive in virulent racism are now under attack by organizations like Black Lives Matter.
All of those things have always been under attack by white supremacy. You can go back to things like whether it's the Tulsa race massacres, like every time black people do create these systems that are our systems, and we are the entrepreneurs. It seems like white supremacy finds a way to destroy it.
Every time. Look, the Tulsa map.
Okay, I'm pausing right quick. Okay, this is something interesting that he's about to talk about, the Tulsa massacre. I found it interesting. Take a look.
Massacre. Within about 5 years, that whole area was rebuilt. It was not even called the Black Wall Street until after it was rebuilt. It was rebuilt, by the way, by Black people without one dime of government money.
Yeah, but who destroyed it to begin with?
It was racists who destroyed it. No question about it.
We've
had race riots, but so have Japanese.
So you do agree that there's racism? I'm just so confused.
You know,
Mr. Elder,
I never even came close to saying. I never came close to saying there was no racism.
You just say you don't think it's systemic racism.
Not anymore. Obviously, there was. We had something called slavery. We had something called Jim Crow.
That destroyed Black. Hold on, sir. That was system that destroyed. That was the system that destroyed Black Wall Street. It's the same system right now that's not even wanting to pay those same living descendants, because I know your position on reparations, but those same living descendants of Black Wall Street.
Okay.
And then you move, and then you go on to say that the system, the quote unquote system, is also trying to destroy President Trump. So I'm just so confused on, do you believe that the system can destroy or not? You pick and choose, sir, and that's what's so confusing to me. You just said it wasn't racism. Now it is racism when it was.
Yeah, I think she's conflating two things. He never said there was no racism. His basic argument is saying systemic racism, if it even does exist today, is it really affecting us from us becoming prosperous? If they were able to do what they did when it was blatant racism, is it stopping us from being who we're supposed to be, from being successful? And she's conflating racism with systemic racism. You know, it's two different things. That's a label under a label.
I see where she's losing it.
Go ahead.
Oh, I see what he's doing, and I see where she's kind of conflating her message a little bit, as you said. But yeah, he's focusing on comparative facts. Like that's how he answers their questions. When they ask him a question about why this, he says, well, back then in this time, when this is like, when this, like he keeps referencing these, you know, past facts, past statistics. He keeps throwing numbers and digits and saying, you know, saying this is progress. This is what needs to happen. Saying basically, he's basically giving us a Make America Great Again for Black people. He's saying Black people, let's go back to a time in the 30s, 40s, 50s when we was, you know what I'm saying? Because yes, like I'm so glad that I said that I would love to hear more of his politics, because I'm hearing them play out right here. To know that you disagree with reparations, I wonder, would you say this about a Holocaust survivor? Would you say this to an LGBTQ community?
I think it would.
Would you say this to the Asian community as quickly as they got their bill for, you know, stop the Asian hate community? You know what I'm saying? Would you?
I think he would. I think he would disagree with it. When you hear I think he might come up in the next couple minutes. I think he'll state his reason why, which is tricky, depending on what you believe. It's tricky. That's a long conversation, what the reason why he gives, but it's tricky. I'm gonna go back to it right quick. And, before I go, let's say, Preezy, you have anything to say before we hit the video again? Okay.
I said it wasn't.
There was no racism.
I said it wasn't systemic racism. Let's talk about.
So what are you just hung up on the word system?
Can I just make this point, Charlamagne, please? Let's take Chinese Americans. Chinese Americans were the first ethnic group to be excluded with an Immigration Act in the late 1800s. They had riots against Chinese in LA, in San Francisco. There were laws that prevented Chinese Americans from participating in the laundry business. I'm in California. California, of course, rounded up Japanese Americans during World War II. There were laws that prevented Japanese Americans from owning farmland. The average Japanese American household has a higher per capita income than the average white household. The average Chinese American household has a higher per capita income than the average white household. How does that happen? It happens because of a strong belief in family. It is rare for a Chinese American or a Japanese American kid to have a child outside of wedlock. and a strong belief in education and a strong belief in entrepreneurship. These are the kinds of qualities that make people
But
successful.
You can't blame everything on having a fatherless family, right? Because
I didn't say blaming
I know,
everything.
but that's what you're saying. You're saying a strong community. But
No, you said
talk
that's
about
what
the
I just
Asian
said. I didn't
community,
say
but
that.
You talk about the Asian community. Asian community, it's easy for them to get loans for entrepreneurships. It's easy for them to get loans for houses. You look at our community.
Okay.
If you really want to talk about our community, right? You look at the schools in our community. Some of our schools are the worst, right? Would you agree with that? Yes or no?
Absolutely. Which
Right,
is why,
don't have Wi-Fi, don't have education,
which is
don't
why
have
one of
books.
the reasons I'm running for president is for school
Also,
choice.
would you say that is in our
That's
community
also
is
systemic. by the way.
it's also in our community is heavy food deserts. There's nothing but fast food places that are just killing and destroying that. Would you say that's true?
Systemic too.
Boy.
Would you say that's true? I'm just asking a question.
You said a number of things. I just addressed one of them about
Sure.
loans. In 1965, Barack Obama, who was in private practice, joined a bunch of other lawyers to file a class action lawsuit against Citicorp, which is headquartered here in New York. 186 Black people were applying for loans for mortgages and didn't get them. And they accused Citicorp of engaging in racism. Citicorp said, no, it's not racism. You have poor credit scores, and we want to make sure we get our money back. Obama joined a bunch of other lawyers, and they sued Citicorp in a class action lawsuit. And Citicorp said, okay, to hell with it. Gave them all loans. And they followed them all up. Daily Caller did a few years later. Almost all of them lost their homes. Several of them filed for bankruptcy. One of them even said, when you don't qualify for a loan, maybe we shouldn't get a loan. Well, duh. It wasn't true that Black people were not getting loans. Plus, there are all sorts of Black-owned community banks around the country. And it turns out the turn-down rate when you apply for a loan at a community bank was even higher because they had less capital and they couldn't afford to loan money to risky people. It is just not the case that the reason for the plight of the Black community is because people were not lending money to them. It's just not true.
That's not true. But
yeah, that's
hold
not
on
true.
one second, Charlamagne. But see,
What's not
you're
true?
bringing back facts of 1965, right? Let's talk 2023, right?
I said 1995.
1995. We talk 2023, right? My son will be successful in real estate and successful in buying a house. You know why? Because his father owns a house.
Because
his
of
father
you.
owns a house, right? But my father
Because of you and the drive. Because of you and the drive you put into
did
him.
not own houses.
Because of you and the drive you put into him.
We're not going to have a conversation.
You're not even appreciating what you've done to your son.
I'm just asking
Okay.
you a question. I just let you speak. And I'll
All
let
right.
you talk.
Okay.
Y'all can talk.
We
Okay.
have a conversation.
All right.
But when we talk about it, right, it's harder for our community to get loans, right? And not just because of poor credit scores, it's because of where the areas are. You talked about the Asian community. A lot of the Asian community have their own banks and they're able to process and get their own banks. There's not too many African American branches that are able to give out money. So that's one. Then let's talk about getting grants for schools. They're not even giving grants for schools at the rate that they're giving grants for white people. And let's talk about when they talk about entrepreneurship. They are giving so much money to these white and Asian kids and Asian people doing it, and a 1,000 times less than our community. Will you agree to any of that?
No, I don't. I don't agree with virtually any of what you just now said. The turn down rate for a white applicant for a mortgage is higher than the turn down rate for a Japanese or Chinese applicant for a mortgage. Now, are you telling me that banks are discriminating against white and in favor of Asian Americans? It's because their credit scores are better. They often live below their means. They save more, even when they're making the same amount of money than Black people do. If you have poor credit score, you're not going to get a loan. Period. End of statement. Even the head of Urban League, even the head of Urban League, a Black man once said that if you have poor credit score, you're not going to get a loan. End of statement.
Sir,
Yes.
let's just, okay. When you were talking about crime, you weren't prepared to talk about disproportion. You talked about how it was more Black people that was doing it. And then you talked about how we're the smaller, other population. The same applies also to the loans. It's more white people than it is Black people. You seem to pick and choose.
I'm talking about the
when you want
rate.
to
I'm talking about the rate.
Whatever it is, the bottom line is it's more white people than it is Black people. And so if more Black people are not getting loans disproportionately, it seems you only want to apply the disproportion to the conversation when it benefits your talking
I'm not
points,
sure you
which
understood.
is why they say.
I'm not sure you
No, I
understood.
understood.
I'm not sure you understood my point. That's why I mentioned in 1995, when 186 Black people who were not getting loans filed a class action lawsuit claiming that they were denied the loan because of racism. Citicorp said, okay, here are your loans. The reason I wasn't giving you the loans is because we're afraid you weren't going to be able to pay them back.
I'm not talking about
Fast
that,
forward,
sir.
they weren't able to pay them back, which proves the
Sir, I'm not
Citicorp
talking
point.
about that. I'm not talking about
I know
that.
you're
I'm
not,
talking about your
'cause
response.
inconvenient.
I'm talking about your response to Envy when you said more white people get approved for loans.
Since you
I'm
like
not talking
numbers,
about
Washington
I
Post
said-
said Black Americans have the highest denial rates for purchase and refinance of loans, according to Home Mortgage Disclosures Act.
Because of
20%
their
are
credit
Black,
score.
and all credit scores are the same. 15% of Hispanic loan applicants were denied, compared with about 11% of white and 10% of Asian applicants with same credit scores. And that's Washington Post, since you love numbers so much, and I know you do love numbers. That's coming from the Washington Post. That's 2023, not 1995.
I can show you a study that says the opposite.
me ask you a question.
Yeah.
Mr. Elder, Donald Trump, Rudy Giuliani.
All right, let's pause there right quick. We get your reactions on what he was saying about black people receiving loans. And he's basically saying, I think it's a number of myriad of reasons, but basically saying the denial comes from lower credit scores versus just being black. I think there's other myriad of things that goes into having a low credit score. A low credit score is basically just proving if you can pay a loan back, if the bank has belief that you can pay it back on time.
And what would make them believe that? What would be something strong enough to make them believe that? You know what I'm saying? It's so funny that the literal idea of a credit score and credit in general was it's another form of classification.
Yeah.
There's an interesting series on Netflix about it.
Yeah. I mean, it's going back, from what I understand, it's basically going off of either how much income you have in the bank, your history of being able to pay back things on time. Sometimes it goes by how much debt you actually have. If you have a low amount of debt, if you have a high amount of debt, you can have a low or high credit score. And I know in the black community, we're not talking about finances at a good amount that, other families do talk about their finances, which can also come back to having a two-parent household where we both can take the time to teach about that. There's a lot of things that can go with that. But do you think that that's the major reason why they're not going through? Because of not race, but because of the low end of our credit score? Do you think there's a system put into place where it's a trickle down effect to where we all have low credit scores? Not all of us, but most of us.
I think it's definitely on purpose. Because again, if you're a person that's never had credit, like if you were born into a family with a mother and a father, if what they did was, I don't want to say trivial or just like manual labor service jobs. They were, farmers or something. They were carpenters or something of that nature. And all they did, they received cash. They received, regular forms of payment. And then they come along, corporate America, come along and invent this thing called credit that is supposed to, like, one, for the fact that he wanted to illuminate the fact that Barack Obama was involved in something where black people who were, trying to get loans were denied, and he sued them on behalf of that. It's constant scapegoating and linking numbers and facts and statistics with negative things associated with black people, Democrats, and just more blaming black people. This is why y'all haven't gotten ahead yet. This is why, and this is why. And I still haven't really heard a solution yet. And his solution is honestly to just, well, let me tell you about a time way back when.
When do you think he's wrong, though?
I don't think, and that's literally, he ended with a statement like that. Well, I could show you a study that says the opposite. That's literally how the internet and information is set up. If someone wants to go outside and say that the sky is blue, another person can go outside and say that the sky is green. Like it's really based upon whatever you believe. If credit is based upon your belief and whatever your politics are. Like I said, I'm glad I got to see a bit further into his politics, because his politics seem to be white supremacist apologetic. You know what I'm saying? He will not say anything negative about the white community and how, if we're talking about violent acts, why are we not starting with school shootings? Why are we not starting with the mass shootings that are taking place all over the nation damn near every fucking month or every other month? And those are predominantly done by white men.
Well, he gets into that point. I don't know if I might have skipped that. I don't know if I skipped ahead too far, but he talks about that, and he says, basically in a breakdown, there's actually more black people percentage-wise doing mass shootings than white people. There's more white people.
Again, making an excuse for the objection against his white race.
Well, he didn't make an excuse. He just named the numbers. I mean, if the numbers say we're at a disproportionate rate of doing mass shootings versus white people, he's going on percentage-wise. He's saying there are more white people who commit white shootings, but it's compared to the percentage of the population, black people do it more.
I wouldn't vote for him because you looking at me as a percentage and not a person.
Really more. Really?
Well, I mean, that's the rate, though. I mean, just like you were talking about the disproportionate rate of black people in prison, that's also looking at it as a number too. But that's true. That's why are we having so many people in prison without race versus white people? There's a
How are we
problem
going
with
to
that.
protect these kids?
60-something%.
Though? Like, again, as a black politician, when you make your talking points, your main speaking points about how the black community is the black community's own worst enemy, you're not inherently wrong when you say that. I will not disagree. We can be our own worst enemy sometimes. But as soon as someone has the rebuttal that, well, you know, we can be our own worst enemy, and I feel like you can't heal what you don't reveal, you have to talk about where that hatred, where that pain, where that trauma, where this mistake that we keep making is coming from, and it's coming from a specific source that we can all point to and say, oh, it's these people, this group of people, and that group of people. And when there are black representatives in places like this man right here that are literally chosen to say, well, you know, actually, it's black people's fault, and you just got to do better about it. I still haven't heard a solution. I still haven't heard exactly what he plans to do other than to tell me about what black people in the past have done. And it's also it removes the emotional aspect of it, because those black people, yes, they were working harder. They were also being disrespected the fuck out of they got paid much lower. Like I know that they were in, you know, situations together. They stuck together even though they were unhappy. Why is that the choice for us? That's an illusion of choice. Why do we have to choose to be unhappy together, doing it for the kids just so we can have something? Why can't we live in the same paradise that other immigrants of this nation, and everyone is a fucking immigrant of this nation? Why can't we live in the same paradise? Why can't we live in the same liberty, justice, freedom, and pursuit of all that happiness shit that other immigrants get to enjoy when they come to this nation uninterrupted? Because where he's talking about the black family, a man and a woman, they lead their family, they're leaders in their household, they become leaders in their community. Martin Luther King, outside of being just a reverend, he was a father, he was a husband, he was a leader in his community, he organized things. This is what happens in America to black leaders. They kill them in front of us. Now, it sounds like they just, like, sometimes I hate these conversations because it does sound like Charlemagne and Envy and them, they just kind of having a pity party. The woe is me.
That's what it sounds like, it's a pity party.
Yeah, it always sounds like, say it's white people, say it's white people, say it's white people. We know it's white people, y'all. We know. But Charlemagne, don't act like you're not sitting here being paid by a white person. You a New York best-selling author, like over. A white person had to like stamp seal to prove that. Come on.
That's exactly what I feel like he's saying. It's like, okay, should be no denial that there is still racism today. And it can be argued that there is systemic racism today. But are the hurdles big enough to keep us in a place in the basement of this country? If they did it in the worst time of racism, and when families were able to stay together, even after slavery had just ended, and during the Reconstruction era, and after that, and during the Jim Crow era, and then during the Civil Rights era, why in the world can't we do it?
I know, but that's
and I do believe a strong part is because of families. Because families, what they do, they leave legacies. They leave stuff in the will to the kids when the mother and father are together to pass on and build the family up, so they don't have to start completely over when they start another family, or when they go get another stepdaddy, or they start a whole nother family. They have to start completely over with the finances and resources. No, they keep it in the family and they keep building and building. That's how generational wealth is built. But we don't never build generational wealth because we don't ever keep intact the generation.
Nope, it's disrupted because I hate to say it like this.
For so many reasons.
You got a bunch of different, brothers and sisters, and all of y'all ain't got the same dad. You know what I'm saying? The house isn't stable. Our homes aren't stable. Our foundation isn't stable. We don't have a foundation in our homes, which trickles out into, like, we send our kids out in the world to play and interact. These are not broken children, but these are incomplete children because it took a man and a woman to make them, but they're being raised without a man, they're being raised without a woman, they're being raised in incomplete situations, and they're going out and having incomplete interactions with other people. And that right there on a systematic level, that is a systematic level of programming. Like if you ride by a project, to like just the visual look of a project building stacked on top of each other, no greenery, nothing to look at. Like it's almost kind of gray sometimes. You know what I'm saying? It looks like a jail. It looks like a prison. It looks like it's setting you up for that nice, school to prison pipeline that they set up. And again, if this kind of terminology, these kind of documents exist. And for him to, and again, he doesn't have to acknowledge it. We don't need to sit here and put him on a fucking Salem witch trial of say it's white people. Like we don't need to find who our boogeyman is. It's white people and it's us sometimes. So as a politician, I don't need for a politician to anything, because a politician is literally something that was created to take power away from me. Boom.
Breezy, you have anything to say on it?
I'll be right back.
I mean, it's a lot. We know that racism still exists
Definitely.
in the world, and they need to make more changes for the Black community. But I don't know if I don't think we'll ever see equal rights as like the white people get. I don't think we'll ever get that. But you can see, I don't know if you guys have experienced, racism, it's still here.
Yeah.
For instance, I read an article of a family. They were trying to buy a house or something like that, and they were a Black couple. They got turned down, and everything was good for them. And then they found out that, they did I think it was some type of, they wanted to see if white people would get the house, and they were going to give them the house, opposed to not giving it to the Black couple. So we see, racism still exists. I'm very surprised when he said that more mass shootings, maybe he's talking about within the Black community.
He was talking about America as a whole.
Mass shootings. I didn't know that it was more mass shootings coming from Black people than white people.
Now, when we say it now, it's just percentage wise. Like, let's just say, okay, there's 1 million white people. This is not a right number, so nobody come at me. But 1 million white people. 100. Let's just say 1,000 white people are committing mass shootings. Okay, and they say you have 100 Black people, but 10 Black people are committing mass shootings. The percentage is higher for Black people, is what he's saying. It's not more mass shootings, but the percentage for Black people are higher. You're going to hear more about it because you see more numbers from white people.
Right.
Saying the rate at how we're doing mass shootings doesn't make any sense. It's like the number of Black people in prison versus for our population doesn't make any sense. So he's not saying there's more numerically, absolute sum total. He's just saying percentage wise, it's disproportionate for our race.
Okay, I see. Okay.
And I don't even know how they rate these things. Like for like drive-bys, I don't know if those are considered mass shootings where multiple people, are shot in mass shooting. I don't know. I never hear nobody call that a mass shooting. I don't know if that's put in the numbers or not. So. Hold on for a minute. Is Dr. Lamar, are you there? I stepped away for a minute. She stepped away. I'm gonna try to skip ahead to some other juicy parts up here. I might have to skip some.
And I'm pretty sure everybody who just caught a RICO with him in Georgia.
If you want to ask me whether I believe Donald Trump is being treated the same way as Joe Biden and is being treated the same way as Hillary Clinton, all these people are white. All these people are white. There's a double standard.
Well,
Mr. Elder, you didn't hear my question.
You said that
You didn't hear my
you
question.
said some people commit crimes. So you do believe that
Yeah.
Trump, Giuliani, they committed a crime.
I don't know.
But you just said some people commit crimes.
I
asked
said
you
some
a
people
question.
committed a crime. I didn't say Donald Trump committed a crime. If you ask me specifically whether I believe Donald Trump committed a
Oh,
crime,
no,
I
but
don't.
asked
I
you
don't.
specifically about those people and why they ended up in jail. They all got fathers.
Well, Donald Trump is not in jail.
Oh, he got indicted.
Yeah, he got indicted.
91
That's a far cry from being in jail.
That's a question.
Why did he get indicted?
Well, he got
then, sir?
arrested, is what I'm
Well,
saying.
he got
He's
it.
going to get arrested.
He got
He's been arrested.
he got indicted, in my opinion, because the DOJ has a double standard. They let Hillary pass, for example. She clearly violated the Espionage Act by having an unsecured server in her basement. She paid for the Steele dossier. She
So was
destroyed.
it the
She
system?
destroyed 30,000 emails that were under subpoena, and she got a wrist slap. And Donald Trump is now being indicted, I think, for the fourth time. It's
Hey, man,
unfair.
Right.
Black
for-
people
by
been
what, the
telling y'all how
system?
corrupt the FBI is for a long time.
And the FBI has been corrupt. There was COINTEL, the
That's right.
FBI.
J. Edgar Hoover.
J. Edgar Hoover also wiretapped MLK under Robert Kennedy, a Democrat
And Malcolm X,
Attorney
and
General,
Muhammad
Malcolm X,
Ali
lots of things. Right. And I find it interesting how the same people who criticize the FBI historically are now defending the FBI because they're going after Donald Trump.
Oh, we're not defending the FBI.
I didn't say you were. I said some of the same people.
We're just looking and saying, damn, finally.
What's your thoughts with,
Justice is
with
being served
Florida?
all across the board.
And you see that they're trying to take our history out of these history books and not trying to teach our history. What's your thoughts?
I
on that?
find it interesting that the Democrats are the ones complaining about Florida. This is the party of slavery, party of Jim Crow, the party of the KKK, the party of the Southern Manifesto,
That's a lot of
the
systemic racism in there.
the party of Dred Scott, the party that I said earlier destroyed the nuclear intact family, and the party that is opposing school choice. And now they want to lecture Florida on making sure the proper history of slavery is taught. I don't know anybody who's defending slavery. Anybody. Not Ron DeSantis.
said-
He's not
Ron DeSantis said
defending.
people benefited from slavery.
Actually, you're talking about one
Well,
line.
actually,
you're talking about one
there
line
is
in about
somebody-
127 pages of the study, and it is a line that was repeated almost verbatim in the associated in the advanced placement African American course that the DeSantis administration refused to use because of all of the sexual stuff that was in it. It's basically the
Well,
same
sir-
thing that was in the advanced placement African American courses, and now
Oh, wow.
because it's in that, all of a sudden the governor is accused of somehow defending slavery. He's not doing anything of the sort.
What did you think
Well,
about
sir,
that line?
you were actually one that defended slavery. In your comments, you said that, like it or not, slavery was legal
It
in a
was.
response to reparations. So it's you that was defending slavery, correct?
Defending it and saying that it's illegal are two very different things.
Well, it
Slavery,
was- well, that was a-
slavery,
that was-
slavery, slavery,
that was your
unfortunately,
response.
slavery,
Well, that was
unfortunately,
your response. That was
slavery-
your response into if reparations should
I-
should happen. So
Let-
your
let-
response to that was, like it or not, slavery was legal, and one would think that that was a defense on those who were
well,
asking
you
for
would think it was a
reparations.
defense,
Yeah, let
but
him answer,
but
Ted.
it is not a defense. Unfortunately, slavery has been part and parcel of human history from the very beginning. Asians enslaved Asians, whites enslaved whites, blacks enslaved blacks, Native Americans enslaved Native Americans. This is a culture, the Western civilization, that had a revulsion against it. We had a civil war against it. And we ought to applaud ourselves for doing something about this. This is a flawed country. It's moving forward. It's becoming more perfect all the time. Today, if you are born and raised in America, if you finish high school, presumably one where you can read, write, and compute at grade level, which is why I support school choice, don't have a kid before you're 20, get married first, get a job, keep a job, don't quit it until you get another job, and avoid the criminal justice system, you will not be poor. And if you don't follow that formula, there's a good chance you will be.
You know, the first
Okay, let's pause it right there, right quick. Okay, so he did say something here I don't necessarily agree with, but I understand where he's coming from. He talked about LTU, we come on that the reparations for slavery. You know, he mentioned all races have enslaved all races, which is true throughout history. But we're just talking about this country here. This country. If we're going to talk about systemic racism, here's one right here that still affects us today. Yes, 1619, slavery was brought here to America. And it still, I think, plays a part in how it affects us today. The Japanese Americans, they did receive reparations that were here during Pearl Harbor. The Indians received reparations, whether in financial institutions or land, they received reparations. So why in the world can't Black people receive reparations? Which would also help with, not having fatherless homes and, bad credit, whatever it is, having money. That would also help out, pick us up out of the doldrums of society by giving us reparations. Now, how much reparations or who receives it, that's up for debate for how much we should get. I mean, we're not going to get what we should get, so, but we should get something for that. Where you want to go, and it's a tricky situation. Like I said, I understand the argument where he's trying to say every race has enslaved every race, and I know black people in Africa have something to do with that as well. Huge part of that as well, but we're in America. What could we do about that here? If we can't even get the damn student loans, can we at least get some reparations? And I mean, the COVID checks don't count either because everybody got those.
It's funny that this man, like this dude, wants me to believe in a Democratic boogeyman so bad. Like when he started talking about how it's funny, he believes in the Supreme Court had a double standard for Hillary Clinton, but they're on this, this wild goose chase for Donald Trump. Like you're so willing to sit here and say that a man that is literally being indicted is not, a criminal, even though he incited a riot against the nation that you are also defending. It's
hard to tell he's actually running against him. Let's not forget he's running for president too. I was like, are you running against Trump or are you pushing him forward? I can't tell.
He's honestly he's just bringing black vote to the Republican Party. That's all he's trying to do.
That could be.
Just trying to bring blackface to the Republican Party because divisive figures are always going to find a voice, and that's what he's doing. Because again, he's very quick to throw out statistics about how he doesn't want to say how white people are behind anything, but he is very quick to say how Democrats are behind anything. Democrats were the party of the KKK. Democrats were this, and Democrats were that. But what is that again? What does that do for me? Or like you can't say anything about the Republican Party. I get that you're here under the guise of a Republican. I'm trying to remember a few of the other things he said.
Said a lot.
He did say a lot. Like he just regurgitated more of why either it's black people's fault or it's Democrats' fault.
Would you say it's more of a Democrat's fault than just saying it's just ultimately just white people? Because that's what basically he's trying to disprove. He's not saying systemic racism. He's not saying systemic racism. He's saying it's a certain party doing some of the things that may be keeping black people down. But he's not saying it's white people as a total sum.
He pretty much just gave us all lives matter.
Yeah, say that.
All lives matter in a nutshell. Because to make your point to despair, because again, Jewish people receive reparations for the Holocaust, and that is something that was happening in a whole nother continent, not even America. America gave them refuge during that time of war and literally went to war on their behalf. And those people, and it's primarily because these people have a nation that they can go back to. Japanese people have a nation that they can go back to. Again, there's leaders. They are allowed to come to positions in political power, if not in our country, in their country. And because they've built strong economic bases in our country, they can lobby, they can go back to their countries and lobby that. And that can be used as leverage against America. America respects other nations. The thing that black people don't have here in America, we don't have our own nation. African Americans do not have our own nation. We don't have and not to say that we need a one specific leader, but yeah, we don't have anyone. We don't have an industry that we own. We don't own any of our industries that we generate billions of dollars in. Rappers and hip hop and rap and R&B are the most profitable forms of music, but the richest people in these industries are white people, are people that are not black. There are people that have made the shadow investment to just fund the music, the entertainment that doesn't allow us to actually progress in the fields that we actually need to in order for all of us to be successful. That just lures us to the only way I'm gonna make it out is if I slang rock, I got a wicked jump shot, or I got rhymes or some shit, and that's not realistic for a lot of us. And he constantly keeps referencing this. That's what I want to mention. all people, enslaving all people is a terrible, it's a terrible defense for slavery. Like you're making something that was, even if something is legal, if it has been proved to be inhumane, there should be a referendum for that or some type of shit. So yeah, he's a Trump apologist. He's a Republican apologist. I don't know exactly what his politics are now, to be honest with you.
Well, again, I'll come back to, I do agree that if there is something of a systemic racism that still exists today, it can be from the stench of slavery that happened, like I said, 3 to 4 centuries ago. But again, I'm all about empowering what you can do now. We talk enough about, as you quoted, the boogeyman. We know what the boogeyman did. We know what the boogeyman may still do. But what can we do to get ourselves out of it? And we don't talk enough about that. I think a lot of people's mentality is just to wait around and see what he can do.
Before I lose it, can I get this on before I lose the thought?
Right.
He actually did give a solution. And that's what I didn't like the most. It was the last thing he said. His solution was to assimilate, pretty much. And go to school, learn what we teach you in the school. Because he didn't really want to answer Envy's question about how they're taking our history and the true history of slavery in the Black oppression out of our out of our schools and out of the curriculums. So, but he wants you to go to school, go to a good college, get a good job, be on that job for about 20 or 30 years, and don't have kids before you're ready. Don't go to jail. Basically assimilate into the American dream, into what America sold the nuclear family, what they sold the white man and the white woman back in the fucking 50s to stamp out, commie terrorism and shit. And that doesn't leave the individual any ability to grow past that, to grow past just being a consumer, to grow past just being an employee. What we need is our own bosses. What we need is to be in charge and own our own things. And you'll never own anything if you're constantly working for someone else. So I don't like his politics. Fuck him. Go ahead.
I mean, isn't that what kind of worked with us in the 1950s, where we were very prosperous, for making businesses of our own, working for our own people, and keeping the dollar within the Black community, versus what we're doing now?
He want us to lean on them repubs.
I'm gonna hit back on the play button. I may have to skip ahead just a little bit, just because of time. We're like only in 25 minutes, so I thought it would be further than that. Okay, let's see.
GOP debate is coming up, and you didn't qualify, and I saw you right.
Well, you didn't say you don't talk enough about it.
Do you agree that our community is hit harder with a lot of things that you just said, whether it is racism, whether it is getting loans, whether it is getting entrepreneurship, whether it is education, whether it is all those things? You do understand that and agree with that, correct?
I do, but much of it is either self-inflicted or because of policies that we have supported, Democrats that we have supported. I wrote a book called, it's coming out in October. It's called As Goes California, My Mission to Rescue the Golden State and Save the Nation. It's about the one-party rule in California. California has supermajorities of Democrats in the Senate and in the House. And as a result, our schools are near the bottom. People are leaving California for the very first time. We have the highest state income tax in the country. The average price of a home in California costs 175% above the national average, all because of these left-wing policies that are hurting the very people, Black and brown people living in the inner city, that people on the left claim that they care about.
Do you think slavery was self-inflicted, or do you think Jim Crow segregation was self-inflicted, or do you think,
slavery was self-inflicted? Of course, it wasn't self-inflicted, but there are a lot of people have bloody hands in slavery. Mm-hmm. For example, slavery could not have existed had it not been for African chieftains who were selling Black slaves captured in battle or captured through raids and selling them to European and Arab slavers. It could not have existed without that. So everybody has dirty hands here. That's why reparations is such a foolish thing. If you're going to get reparations from the 5% or so of white people that have some sort of generational connection to slavery, and that's all there is, then you need to go back to Africa and get money from African countries that were involved in the slave trade and in the Arab slave trade. And by the way, the Arab slave trade was even worse than the European slave trade. 90% rate of attrition, often making men and women walk on barefoot across the Sahara, and the men were castrated. Only about
So if they go after the money from the other countries, then would you agree that it would be okay to go after the money from America? Is that your problem with it? That it stops at-
When are you going to stop with this? Everybody has
No,
a
I
grievance.
just asked a simple
I'm just,
question. If
I'm
they go-
answering, I'm
you-
answering your
you-
question.
No, I just
There's
want
no
you to
end.
answer directly.
There'll be no end to this because slavery has been
Okay,
part
that's
of
fine,
human
Mr.
history
Elder. It's a-
from the
it's a
very
simple question.
beginning.
Okay,
be getting
now
money.
I've let you talk, sir. I've let you talk, and every time I talk, you begin to talk, and then you say, "Let you finish." So I asked you a very simple question. You said, "If you're going to go after it in America, go after it in Africa." So if we all agree to go after it in Africa, will you then agree to go after it in America? It's just a simple question.
No,
Yes or no?
no, I won't because it's a waste of time. We ought to be spending our
Okay,
time
no problem.
on
Next
education.
question.
Okay,
So, Matt,
okay. You told me that I cut you off. Then I try to answer your question. You won't let me finish.
Go ahead, Larry.
Thank you. It's a waste of time. We ought to be talking about working hard, investing in ourselves. Right now, as we speak, there are Haitians in Haiti lining up for a lottery to come into this country. Why? Because it is the land of the free and the home of the brave. You can go from nothing to something faster in America than any other country in all of human history. We ought to be talking about that. Let me just, one more point. 1997, Time Magazine and CNN hooked up together to do a poll on what Black teenagers and white teenagers felt about racism. And both of them were asked, is racism a major problem in America? Both of them said yes. But then Time and CNN asked this question of the Black teenagers. Is racism a big problem, a small problem, or no problem in your own daily life? This is 1997. 89% of them said small problem or no problem in my own daily life. In fact, twice as many Blacks said failure to take advantage of available opportunities is a bigger problem than racism.
That was
Twice,
1997.
1997. Look it up.
It's 2023 though.
You think America's more racist now after the election and re-election of Barack Obama than it was in 1997?
Yes, because of the election of MAGA, Donald Trump, 100%. Yes.
Really?
Absolutely.
Well, how is it, Charlemagne, that Donald Trump got 8% of the Black vote in 2016? He got 12% in 2020, a 50% increase. He got 20% of the Black male vote in 2020. If MAGA is racist, how do you explain that Donald Trump substantially increased the percentage of Black votes the Republican Party got?
Sometimes people make.
So why are you running against Trump then, Mr. Elder?
Yeah,
I'm not running against him. I'm running against Biden Harris. Any one of the Republican nominees we have would be better than what we have right now. I'm not running against him. I'm running to put forth the issues I just now mentioned that I've been talking about for the last few minutes.
I want to ask you about that. After 4 indictments, 91 criminal charges, don't you think it would behoove the Republican Party to move on from Donald Trump?
Skip ahead of that a little bit. Talk about Trump now. Get more to the policies.
Sick, the poor, the elderly, and you are going to lose elections. That's why government.
What do you?
You said
say that
you said
again?
I didn't leave the recall to the voters.
No. I said you. They're two totally different
things. Yes,
you're
yes, they
trying
are.
to merge the two, but they're two totally different. Moaning and groaning when it comes to Donald Trump and how he's being treated. So it just seems to be a hypocrisy. And I don't know if the message would land a little bit better if there was some fairness across the board on Democrats and Republicans. I'm an independent, by the way, and I think both parties are trash. And I think all of us here, see both sides. And that's the part that's just not landing for me. There seems to be an unfairness on both sides with you.
Well, not too surprisingly, I don't agree with your analysis. How is it that I did not leave the recall to the voters? What do you mean by that?
What do you?
You said I didn't leave the recall to the voters.
No. I said you moaned and groaned about it. You said it should be recalled, correct? Correct?
I said Gavin Newsom should have been recalled. Yes.
Right. That's moaning and groaning.
Well, actually, it's taking advantage of what's in the California Constitution, which is when a certain percentage of voters sign a petition to recall a politician, there can be a recall vote. And there was one, as there was in 2003. We recalled the governor then. And there was in 2021 when I attempted to recall Gavin Newsom. That's part of our democratic process in California.
Absolutely. We agree with that. I'm going to your statement when you said rather than moan about it a little while ago, you said rather than moan about it, I'm just going to keep doing the hard work. And so I'm just saying that technically is moaning about it because the governor's the son.
I don't follow exactly what you're saying. I really
it's okay. I don't expect you to.
Yeah,
but it's
I'm
one moment.
I'm a little slow sometimes.
One moment, yeah, we get it.
Yeah.
One moment you're complaining about the system, and the next minute you're saying the system is fair. The next minute you're saying it's not fair. So that's what I'm saying. There just seems to be a double standard on you and the system, not wanting to be accountable for a system that Black people are not in charge of, by the way, of not wanting to hold both sides accountable when it comes to the system.
Do I believe Hillary was treated differently and Joe Biden treated differently than Donald Trump is being treated? Yes, I do. Is that an indictment about whether or not America is systemically racist? No, it is not. Those are
they're two totally different things.
Yes,
you're
yes,
trying to merge the two, but they're two totally different things.
I agree with you. They're
But
two
it is
different
still the
things.
system.
No,
It is still-
we're
it is still the
agreeing. We're
system.
agreeing. They're two different things. We're agreeing.
Yeah, they actually are agreeing, but I don't think she understands what he's trying to say. He's not saying that. He's saying he doesn't agree with some parts of the system of the political party, but not that it's systemic racism happening to him. she's kind of conflating the two, but they end up really agreeing. And she
Because
doesn't even
what they're
realize they're
both
agreeing
trying
with
to,
each other.
what they're both trying to, or what is trying to be got at is, if you can say that Donald Trump, a rich old white man, is being treated unfairly because he's Donald Trump, then surely you can believe a group of people that have been slaves in this country are probably being mistreated because there are a group of people in this country who used to own slaves, and they're like, it's, I get what she's saying. He's picking and choosing when he wants to believe that there is a boogeyman system or an alleged rigged system against either his policies, the policies of the people that he agrees with, or just Donald Trump altogether. But when it comes to, okay, well, you want me to believe that the government is, that the Democratic, representatives, the Democrats that are in charge right now are responsible for everything that's wrong with me and everything that's happening to Donald Trump, and we have a common enemy in the Democrats. And my rebuttal is, well, I have a common enemy in both of you. His response is usually just to, well, actually, y'all did this to yourself. It's self-inflicted. Slavery is like, he's not outwardly saying that these things are self-inflicted. He's not saying that these things. He's doing the good politician dance around the question that you asked me, because what I'm going to give you is the talking points that I need to give you about why you should vote this way.
I don't know. I'm not really getting that. I'm getting, he's telling you, yes, I don't think he's saying it's totally self-inflicted, but I think he's saying what you can do to get out of it. Because what we've heard from Joe Biden and other people who have run in the past is, I'll fix it. I'll fix it for you. Vote for me. I got the standards. I got the solutions for you. Just vote for me. And we leave it in their hands. And then when it doesn't happen, then we're moaning and pissing and moaning about it. So if the person if we are saying that it is systemic racism, if we're saying most or all white people are racist, then how are we going to ask for help? Nothing's going to come of it then. So if nothing's going to come of it, then we need to do it ourselves. And I feel like that, to me, that's what I feel like he's saying. Yeah, it may be a little bit like, yeah, okay, some of this, yeah, you did do on yourselves. But he did mention, like I said, the laws that the welfare state that passed from Lyndon B. Johnson, that incentivized, like I said, single black mothers really took advantage of that. That's self-inflicted, but it also was something that was put in place by the Democratic Party of Lyndon B. Johnson. But what are we going to do about it? Ask them for help? We're going to keep asking them for help, or are we going to do something on our own about it? Like they did.
It's just the wording that he uses. He uses
Maybe.
like the goodness of Lyndon B. Johnson's heart. It's like, why are you apologetic? Like, why are you?
I can go with that. Yeah, I don't think that was 100% out of his heart to do. Yeah,
this
I can agree
welfare
with that.
thing is like he really was trying to romanticize
Yeah,
the intent behind implementing these things into the Black community by people that support his political party. Like, because again, we didn't talk about Nixon, we didn't talk about Reagan, we didn't talk about Reaganomics.
Oh, I said, yeah, you didn't mention anything about the crack thing.
Like we didn't go to these places. You know, he went to very specific timelines. But again, 1990, you're going to fucking surveys from 1997 from Black teenagers and black.
Well, I think he just most of the time state that, hey, if they didn't think, they didn't think racism was such a huge deal at that time, the 90s, which that's not what.
And that's
some odd years ago, 30 odd years ago almost, and has things gotten better or worse?
That's a lot of what he's doing. He's bringing up comparative facts and just asking us a question. Mm-hmm. Well, hey, back in 1970, this happened and this happened and 30% of this and 40% of this. So you tell me why can't like, because again, he kind of said it right there. It's like his whole thing is systemic racism cannot exist in a post Barack Obama world. Like for you believe that Black people can no longer act as though and be justified in feeling like we're mistreated in this country because this country elected a black president. He goes to the facts of, no other country on the planet that is, got white people in charge has ever elected a black person. And again, that's all fine and dandy, but there's definitely rules, regulations, and stipulations that went along with that. Barack Obama was not very helpful to black people, as we come to saw, or as we came to see.
Yeah.
So that's something that, again, it's kind of like he wants to pour salt in the wound on it. Like, you want to say that it's kind of like using him as a lamb. You know what I'm saying? It's like, you want to use this as a milestone. Look, you guys can't say that you're being treated unfairly, because look at how far we've been able to go in this country. So if you haven't gotten there, it's literally because you're not following these specific policies. And this, like, he's not saying that he can do anything, but he's saying follow these policies. Definitely. His policies are go to school, go to college, get a good job, spend 20 to 30 years on that job, like, live life the way that this policy dictates. And it's not, I don't hear the self-empowerment. I don't hear the, and I'm not gonna lie, I don't hear the pro-black empowerment, because I hear what it's very anti-black. Like, even though he throws out pro-black statistics of how we were doing well at one point in time, these are the statistics of yesteryear. These are things that don't exist anymore. We keep asking him about 2023, 2024. Shit, like, I don't care. I wasn't alive for 1950. And yes, things were worse in 1950 and they were doing better, and things can be called quote unquote better now, but somehow we're doing worse off. It's more than just our political affiliations. It's our education. He said that he's working on that, but he had nothing to say about how they're removing Black history from our schools. If anything, he needs to have a policy where there's more Black history in our schools. We literally start with the history of the world and a lie about where the world took place in its origins. It didn't start in fucking Greece. It didn't start in fucking Rome. It didn't start in Great Britain or any of these cold ass Caucasus places. It started in Africa, but our history books don't dictate that. We don't get the proper financial, we don't get taught things in our school that we're actually going to use to actually be self-reliant individuals. We're taught things to be good workers. We're taught good mathematics so we can operate a cash register. We're taught English and writing so that we can communicate with each other and take orders and instructions. It's systematic from the fucking toys that we play with. You know what I'm saying? You get an Easy Bake Oven or you get a G.I. Joe. That you're going to be in the house or you're going to be fighting one of these wars that we need your body for. So it's things that he's clearly denying that his political party had anything to do with. He's very willing to highlight that the Democratic political party had things to do with. So if you want to blame somebody, blame them. But when it comes to, okay, we are blaming Democrats too. I'm an independent. Okay, well, blame yourself then. Blame yourself. And Black people chose this. Black people chose this. Black people chose it. It's like, my nigga, are you a Black people? Are you?
I'm calling that self-inflicted. You can call that self-inflicted. We voted for some of those people that did put some of these hurtful policies for us. There are a lot of the things that Joe Biden put in us in the 60s and 70s. And then Joe Biden all of a sudden wanted to show up and say, hey, I did all this for Black people back in the day. And we go look back at his history and show that actually he was worse than you could say Donald Trump. He was worse than you could say Hillary Clinton. Those predators comment that she made in the 90s or whatever. Joe Biden was not a good person for Black people.
Let's be honest.
Black people for our eyes to make us think that he is for Black people. I don't know how he did that. He's not even for himself right now because he don't know where he's at. So let alone back then, he was definitely for Black people. He was against civil rights in the beginning for Black people. Then somehow he kind of scooted on in there and pulled his Houdini act and made people believe that, oh, because I'm a Democrat, yes, I'm for Black people. And we fell for that. And you can say that's self-inflicted. And still today, that's self-inflicted.
You know what is funny? I don't never see no Hispanic politicians going on Hispanic radio stations talking about this shit that's, the problems and the issues that are plaguing the Hispanic community. This is why we can't get ahead and say, I never see that. I never see or any politicians of any other race publicly putting down the community they claim to want to help. so prevalent, like not as prevalently as I do within our community. Again, this man gave me very Candace Owen
They
vibe.
don't have the same history as us, though.
They don't. And their history is that they all came over here willingly. And when they didn't get the same respect and treatment that a first class citizen would get, they fought for it. They went back to the nations that they like. He wants us. It's funny, like when he brought up the all people of the world have been involved in slavery. Slavery is just a thing that's been happening through human history. You wouldn't say that about rape. You wouldn't say that about child molestation. You wouldn't say that about these other cannibalism. Like you wouldn't say that about these common things that have been happening all throughout human history that have honestly been happening longer than the 2,000 or so years that we as modern humans have, existed. He wouldn't say that about that so fucking publicly. But when it comes to talking about Black people and the Black experience within this nation and all over the diaspora, it is okay for a Black person or any other person to say slavery happened to every fucking body. Now, where that is a problem at is, you're not going to make it to, like, there was a time where it was okay to say the F word. Where was it okay to, like, I was, again, just watching old episodes of South Park, they used to let that motherfucker fly. Now, we're living in a day and age where if you say that, those people will attack you financially, economically. There was a time where you could, and shout out to the ADL because they came through and made sure you couldn't do this no more. There was a time where if you were Jewish in this country, they could assault you. You know what I'm saying? They could get at you until the Anti-Defamation League came through. That's a band of Jewish people that came together, had support from not only members within their community, but members of outside America as a nation, that they could say, hey, we're responsible for this, and this in this nation. And if this continues to go on, we're going to do something about it. And their response was to give America a new scapegoat, which in the media became Black man and Hispanic man. But that's a whole another conversation for another day. But yeah, to make it about or say that slavery is a part of all human history.
Yeah, I don't agree with that. But just saying you shouldn't get no reparations for that, or I don't know, apologies, finances, loans, easier loans, or whatever, all raised.
Because he wanted to include, he was very quick to include in the Africans. Like, again, you can't mention how this thing was, slavery wouldn't have been possible if it wasn't for Africans. You want me to be mad at Africans I don't even have a connection to. And guess what? I don't have a connection to them due to the poor education system that I'm subject to in this country. There's no African programming for me outside of BE fucking T. Like that, and that's not African, that's African American. And then when I turn to images of Africa, I'm being shown how poor it is. I'm being shown how sick these children are. I'm being shown how much war and famine there is over here. I'm not being shown or educated appropriately on myself. I'm not being given the same spiritual liberation that people who wear turbans and Indian people can come over to this country and practice and still be respected. I have to follow in some, I have to assimilate. I have to assimilate to white religion. I have to assimilate to white language. Black people don't have a native language. We don't have a native tongue. Slang is not our shit. Hizzle, for shizzle, and sheezy is not a way that we can actually speak and be taken seriously and communicate with each other and know what we're saying and be able to build a community where we can speak our language to each other like that. We don't have a foundation. And he was very quick to include, well, the reason you don't have that is because of the Africans. So, you know what I'm saying? Again, you could be mad at everyone other than the white people that are currently in charge and were in charge at all of these other times.
Breezy, do you have anything to say on this?
Where I said everything.
No, I think he said everything.
Go back to the video.
No, I don't. I believe that he complained about the election the same way Hillary did, kind of way. I'm amazed that you weren't mad about that.
Okay.
Them of undermining our republic, and they're not undermining our.
Okay, so he's about to talk about when Biden was on the show and how Charlamagne reacted to that. When he was talking about if you don't vote for the Democratic Party, you ain't black. Charlamagne's going to bring up something like this. He think he has a gotcha moment for him, but I think it kind of backfires for him. So let me play it right quick.
Republic. They're complaining about an election. You have a right person. And when Joe Biden about Mitt Romney, and he came in here, percent of black people, black men, as I said, voted for Donald Trump in 2020. Anything else, letting a bunch
What's happening? I see one party that seems still committed.
they exercise whatever means the
Well, the FBI said that.
the anti economics. When Joe Biden came into office, and we have about 7 million illegal aliens, like minimum wage, some protocols, there'd be other protocols. For example, they wanted capital gains taxes raised, which Obama promised to do. It was
And those are just two totally different.
against another person.
Sure, but that wasn't what I was talking about, condemning him.
Many black,
I thought I was near it somewhere. Maybe I skipped it.
I heard him say something.
well,
about
that is a moral issue. I happen to be pro-life, and I believe that for education, funding. As for the sins of my past, either the Lord has election, you have a right to do so. A white guy coming here, how dare you insult me and tell me the rights record, claiming that he desegregated.
I don't tend to get upset over things like I'm just asking. I'm just
All right.
Jay Johnson, who's Obama's DHS secretary, testified under oath that not a single vote tally was changed by the Russians. They tried, but they failed to change a single vote tally. 66% of Democrats believe the Russians changed vote tallies to get Donald Trump elected, even though Jay Johnson testified under oath, not a single one was changed. That's the damage that people like Hillary and former President Jimmy Carter and Stacey Abrams and Hakeem Jeffries and others have said for years, referring to Donald Trump as illegitimate. A greater percentage of Democrats believe 2016 was stolen than we feel that way about 2020, but yet nobody calls them election deniers and nobody accuses them of undermining our republic. And they're not a person. And when Joe rights record claiming that he desegregated
I'm trying to find the part.
I don't tend to get upset.
Oh,
over
he
things.
brought Jimmy. He brought Jimmy.
I'm not gonna say that.
guy come in here and insult you ain't really black.
By an unexpected act of racism.
All right. There we go.
Call.
No.
It is an incident where a person of color.
I'm almost there. Okay.
Them of undermining our republic. And they're not undermining our republic. They're complaining about an election. You have a right to do so.
I know you probably got to go. Have you ever heard of the term "nigga wake up call"?
No.
It is an incident where a person of color forgets that they are of color and are reminded rather brutally by an unexpected act of racism. Have you ever had any of those?
brother.
I'm just asking. You think you've ever
Well,
had
I'm acutely aware, Charlemagne, that I'm a black person, just as you are a black person. And when Joe Biden insulted you by saying, you ain't really black, we don't know whether or not you want to vote for me or vote for Donald Trump, it seems to me that should have been a wake-up call on your part. How dare this guy come in here and insult you, a black man, and tell you you got to think a certain kind of way? I'm amazed that you weren't mad about that.
I'm not gonna say it upset me, just like I'm not letting you upset me. You know what I mean? I don't tend to get upset over things like
Well,
that. But what I did say,
Well,
to him
you
was
just not
it's
talk about a nigger wake-up call, and it seemed to me that should have been a wake-up call on your part to have a white guy come in here who also said, by the way, about Mitt Romney, because he didn't want to put more regulations on Wall Street, going to put y'all back in chains. And Joe Biden has lied for decades about his civil rights record, claiming that he desegregated movie theaters and restaurants in Wilmington, Delaware, when he didn't do any of that. He lied and said that he tried to visit Nelson Mandela during apartheid South Africa. He did not. And he came in here and told you aren't even black and let you think a certain kind of way. It seemed to me that should have been a nigga wake-up call for you, but it wasn't, apparently.
Yeah, I mean, no, for the record, I'm not a Democrat or Republican.
I didn't say you were.
Yeah, I think both.
I don't know what
parties
you
are
are. I never even asked you about your party affiliation.
Yeah,
I'm just saying, but you are black. And to have a white guy come in here and tell you have to say, think a certain kind of way, otherwise you, quote, ain't black. Wow.
How should I have replied to him, you think?
What I just now said, how dare you insult me and tell me I think as a human being, let alone as a black person? I don't tell you how to think, Joe Biden. How dare you come in here and tell me how I should think? I'm going to vote for Donald Trump if I want to vote for Donald Trump. And if I want to vote for Donald Trump, it does not make me not black. 20% of black people, black men, as I said, voted for Donald Trump in 2020. Are they not black now? So only 80% of black people, black men walking around are really black, 20% are not because they voted for Donald Trump. How insulting is that? How condescending is that?
I mean, you're probably right, but I didn't take it in that way.
Well, I did.
As I said to him in that moment, it's just about me wanting something for my people. And I want to know, what is he going to do for my people? And not only for my people now, how are you going to atone for the things you've done to my people?
Right.
That's it.
Right. And this is a guy, Joe Biden, who, when he first got into the Senate, hung out with segregationists, talked about how well he got along with them, talked about how he didn't want integration because of a jungle. This guy has made all sorts of insulting things to black people, and his policies right now are hurting black people. Inflation hurts the people at the bottom more than anything else. Letting a bunch of illegal aliens into the border are hurting black people more than anybody else, as I said earlier. He opposes school choice when he has his own kids in private school. And we lost a year, almost 2 years of in-school education in California because of COVID that he supported. I mean, this guy has done monstrous things to black people. And then for him to come in here and tell you how you ought to think as a black person, it blew my mind.
As a person,
This is what I'm talking about. When you want to say, I mean, he's up here, he's talking about Biden, he's talking about the Democratic Party. I know that's his going argument for almost everything, but this is where it is self-inflicted because a lot of people voted for him just because he's a Democrat. They didn't look at any of his past history and any of his past atrocities that he did to black people. Or Hillary Clinton. Well, Hillary didn't get elected, but she almost did. There was a lot of people that were voting for her when she was running for office. Bill Clinton did quite a few things too when he was running for office that people swept under the rug, that people didn't realize that he did. But just simply because he was a Democrat, just because they checked that box. That's self-inflicted from us. That's something we need. You can't just go to the poll. I hate this whole vote or die thing. Vote, study who you're voting for. You know, make sure that he lines up with the policies of the person you're trying to vote for. Make sure they line up with what you're trying to get done in your household. But don't just vote because it's the popular choice to do it. And that's what we have done. That's why I hate when celebrities like Diddy and all these other people making these commercials about vote or die. Like, no, you're going to die if you just vote just for the hell of it. Study and then vote. That's self-inflicted from black people. I will agree with that. We are horrible when it comes to that. We'll go out there to vote, especially black women are going out to vote in droves. They vote more than black men. But do we know what we're voting for when we go out there?
We literally just be voting for whoever sells us the best dream, because history should tell us something more than anything. We've been voting for the same two political parties for literally damn near like 200 some years, over 200 fucking years. And each time we vote for one of these two parties that we tell ourselves we can only vote for, I think black people are afraid of either not voting or having to go outside of their comfort zone and their field of knowledge, their depth of knowledge, and figure out what other parties, what other types of politicians there are to endorse. You have to become more active in your community, or else when it comes time to make a decision based upon your community or that's going to affect your community, you're going to be ill-informed. And I think that's what it comes down to for us a lot. We're very ill-informed, and we just go with what gets thrown in our faces. A lot of us wake up in the morning, we get ready for work, we hop in the car. You're going to vote for whatever your radio or whatever commercials you're hearing on the radio. You know what I'm saying? Those names are going to be familiar to you. When you're sitting on YouTube and you're watching videos and you don't have premium, so you can't press skip through these shits, you're going to see all the fucking negative Stacey Abrams ads, and it's going to make you think, oh my God, this Stacey Abrams is a terrible person. I got to vote against her come November or some shit. You're just going off of what gets fed to you, and that takes away the necessity that we need to find in searching for our own answer. What affects your community? What affects you on an individual level? And what politicians have policies that line up with that? We don't think about that for politics and for being voters, for that to be something that matters so much. How often do we really talk about that in school? Like, why don't we have a class specifically on democracy? Like, we have civics and economics, but that's literally like 1 year, one semester. You're not gonna, like, why is that something that we're not constantly taught about? And I agree, when celebrities just attach their name to it, they're just selling whatever politician has bought them, whatever campaign has bought them. Because at Diddy, why are you're telling me vote or die, but vote or die for who? John Kerry or George Bush?
Oh,
Two old white men?
I go a step further. What was that? I think you might not be here for that story, but I think it was last year or the year before where Trina had that song with, I forget the dude's name, no voting, no bucking or whatever. The video they had for that, they use sex to influence people to go vote. Like, oh, okay, but vote for who though? oh, you won't. It was like, we'll threaten you by not giving you sex if you don't vote, because black people are supposed to be very sexual beings. So
And
you don't want, if you want to not have sex, if you want to sleep in a cold bed, you better get your ass out there and vote. That's what they threatened us with.
I think it was backs that ass up.
No, that was before that. No, I'm talking about after that. There was when during this was after Biden had got in. This was last year. It was a thing with Trina. Backs that ass up was with Juvenile and Mia X. This thing was with Trina and some other guy from the South. I forgot. I think he's a gay rapper. That was on.
Oh, Saucy Santana.
Yeah, yes. He was on the video and it was like, no voting, no bucket. They put a V up there or something. Oh, no bucking. I don't know.
You know what? You're right. No voting, no bucking. No.
Yeah. And it was a stupid campaign, like I said, to put out there to get people or black people to vote. It was targeted.
That's the racism of the Democrats.
Backing that ass up. So that's, when we think about voting, when we think about getting a vaccine, we think about sex, obviously.
Democrat, and just like with the welfare system, just like Democrats are racist to us by giving us money. And that's what they're doing that's what they do with it. I mean, honestly, to go back to what Kanye West was saying, that's what they kind of do with black celebrities. They pick nice faces. They pick just like what we feel like Republicans do with their black Republicans, the people that they put in front of us to talk negatively about us. The Democrats also hire and pay and solicit black celebrities and black social figures to
Cardi B, another one.
They got Cardi. Damn.
Yeah, they got Cardi. She was during the Biden election. She was pretty much running for him.
Well, yeah, they'll hire us to jigaboo and shuck and jive for them because it's a nice check for us. It might, allow us some diplomacy, whatever the fuck. That's why we saw images of Lil Wayne shaking hands with Donald Trump because he needed to get out of jail. He knew he had that court case coming up.
And you were totally right when you said earlier, what other race does that when we get celebrities, the dumbed down celebrities, to give us information on how we vote for policies that could affect us for the next generation? We are the only ones that really do that. I'm sure they got country music stars that go out there for Trump or whoever else, but those are white guys. What race does, other than us, gives the worst of our generation, the worst of our culture to tell us voting advice?
Like, I love hip hop just as much as anyone, but we literally get our motivation for voting or not voting. Like, because also you're not sending them a message by just not giving them your vote. I strongly disagree with just not being a part of the electoral process either, because like our ancestors, our grandparents, our great grandparents, they did fight for this right. That is how things happen. But people want to see something, they want immediate gratification. And people always think, okay, well, if I want something to happen for black people, for my people, I need to vote for who's in charge. Like I said, you don't, when your order is messed up, you don't just want to talk to the cashier, you want to talk to the manager. If you feel like black people have had a rough time in America, you don't want to talk to the cashier of America, you want to talk to the manager of America. We be trying to vote for the best manager of America, and we literally get sold the Coke and Pepsi. We get told that there's only two versions of these products. You can either get Coke, you can either get Pepsi. Guess what? They both is sludge and they both bad for you. We don't ever want to, step outside of the illusion of the matrix, pretty much. We're all in the matrix, and the matrix is everything around us, not just the politics, but the things that we're consuming, like when it gets down to our content. If you're noticing that Tyler Perry really sat down with Barack Obama just to talk about some old ass chairs that he bought from fucking Abraham Lincoln or some shit, which is like, imagine, I wonder how Abraham Lincoln would feel to know that the things that he did back in 1865 would have two descendants of the slaves that he freed. He ain't free shit. He wasn't out there with the Tuskegee, letting that thing off against the South. He just sent motherfuckers down there to do his shit for him. But yeah, like just to talk about, it's a lot of kissing white ass. It's a lot of scapegoating and blaming black people, and it's a lot of member berries being shared amongst each other.
Let me play the last part of this. We're gonna wrap it up. You know, kind of skip ahead to the end and then give our parting shots.
Tavis and Cornel West, that under Ronald Reagan, black adult unemployment fell faster than white adult unemployment. Last year, there were 25. In the election, I want to remind you that Hillary Clinton advised Joe Biden during the 2020 election, if it is a close election, quote, do not concede under any circumstances, close quote. Donald Trump used whatever legal means he could, advancing some, even though it was the Democratic Party that was a party of Jim Crow and slavery.
So why should black people rock with the GOP then? Like, what are the reasons?
Economics. I had Tavis Smiley and Cornel West on my radio show once, Charlemagne. And I told Tavis and Cornel West that under Ronald Reagan, black adult unemployment fell faster than white adult unemployment. Black Hispanic unemployment fell faster than did white unemployment. Black teenage unemployment fell faster than did white teenage unemployment. Black businesses were created at a rate faster. Their revenues grew at a rate faster. And they both told me that I was wrong and that they would have the data on my desk by Monday. That was 15 years ago. I know the mail is slow, but it seems to me they should have given it to me by now. Again, Donald Trump presided over the best economy ever for black people, lowest unemployment. And it seems to me the number one reason that most people vote is because of the economy. We have had 40-year historic high in inflation. We've had gas prices that are now about 40% more than what they were when Joe Biden came into office. And we have about 7 million illegal aliens in our country. And the bulk of the suffering because of these illegal aliens will be borne by black people living in the inner city. Those are three reasons alone not to vote for the Democratic Party and to vote for the Republican Party. And by the way, I'm not voting for a fishing buddy. It's not because I like Trump or like him personally. I'm voting for policies. And I don't really care whether or not his personality offends people and he does bad tweets. Maybe it might be better for our society if he were more polite. I don't know. I don't care. I'm not voting for a fishing buddy. I'm voting for somebody to keep taxes low, keep regulations low, to secure the borders and keep us out of unnecessary wars.
Would it be fun to have money in a fascist country, though? To be black and have money in a fascist country? Or to be anything other than
I don't agree this is a fascist country. It's always better to have money than not to have money.
All right. Anything else, Tess?
Well, just a simple question. Have the Republicans done anything that you disagree with, just out of curiosity?
They spend too much. I think taxes are still too high. I think that there are a lot of Republicans that support things like minimum wages. And by the way, Milton Friedman, one of my favorite economists, said the minimum wage is perhaps the most anti-black law in the statute books, close quote. At one time, a black teenager was more likely to have a job than a white teenager until the minimum wage came along and kicked it up and up and up. So there are policies that the Republican Party supports, like minimum wage. Some of them do that I don't like. Also kinds of licensing, unnecessary licensing. I was at an Apple store a few years ago, and this black woman waited on me, and she was very sharp technically. I'm not very technically sharp, and I was very impressed. And I said, "Have you always been technically sharp?" She goes, "Well, I'm not really. I'm just here because I want to earn enough money to get a license to cut hair." I said, "Black hair?" She said, "Yes." I said, "You don't know how to cut the black hair already? I have black barbers in my family. Everybody learned how to cut hair on their own." She said, "Well, in California, you have to have a license to get. You have to have a license to open up a shop to cut hair." I said, "How much does it cost?" She said, $5,000. I said, "You need to get a $5,000 license to learn how to do something you already know how to do? What is that?" So a lot of the rules and regulations. Okay, fair.
It's hard to get around them systems, no matter how hard you work.
But the system applies to both blacks and whites too. But fair enough, those systems ought to be struck down. So there are lots of things Republicans do that I don't.
Well, it's not just cutting hair. You know that. You know they have to train how to learn with diseases and to make sure your clippers are clean and make sure certain things that you have to follow certain protocols so that you can be a barber, so that you can make sure that the community's safe when you're doing these protocols.
Well, if there weren't government protocols, there'd be other protocols. For example, there's something called the Consumer Reports. That's not government, and it comes out and it talks about cars and what cars are good, cars are safe. If government didn't do these kinds of things, entrepreneurs would step in and they would have licensing. So there'd be a little sticker on the window when you go to a barbershop and it would say, "I've been approved by so-and-so licensing board or organization."
Some of it's bullshit. 5,000 is too much though. But.
There are all sorts of things that we would do if the government was not doing it.
Do you have a black barber?
Yeah, I do.
Oh, okay. Just making sure.
Actually, I have a black barber for 25, 30 years. He got cancer, and now the person that owns the shop, who is Latina, cuts my hair.
Okay. I do want to ask you one final question. When do you think systemic racism ended? Since you said it don't exist anymore, when did it end?
I can't come up with a specific time, but Civil Rights
Neither
Act,
can we.
Civil Rights Act of 1964,
Mm.
Brown versus Board of Education, the Loving versus Virginia Act that struck down race mixing. You couldn't, for 13 states, you couldn't marry a white woman. Again, I think that when Barack Obama got elected, it was a big deal. When Obama got elected, this is really important. He got elected with a little more than 52% of the vote. He walks into the Oval Office the third week of January. He had a 70% approval. How can that be? How can 15% all of a sudden support this man? It wasn't because they wanted capital gains taxes raised, which Obama promised to do. It wasn't because of Obamacare, which Obama promised to do. It's because many Americans said, at the very least, he'll stop the nonsense that America remains systemically racist. And for 8 years, in my humble opinion, he played race card after race card after race card. So when he entered the Oval Office, both blacks and whites thought race relations would get better. When he left, both blacks and whites thought they got worse. Why? Because he did things like the Cambridge police acted stupidly when they didn't. If I had a son, he looked like Trayvon. When what happened to Trayvon had nothing to do with his race. He embraced Black Lives Matter. He invited Al Sharpton in the White House over 70 times. He said that racism is in America's DNA. He said all sorts of things so that when he left, both blacks and whites thought race relations got worse.
Right, but sir, this is where and we can just agree to disagree, because you're mixing race relations and voters, what voters decided to do, who might just be very good people that decided to elect a black man, confusing with institutional system racism. And those are just two totally different things. And it's okay if we just agree to disagree. I'm talking about structures, not what voters did, or voters wanted to see better race relations. We're talking about structures, the same structures that you referenced several times that have also spited you. So that's
Joe
all
Biden, for example, when Georgia reformed its law, said it was worse than Jim Crow. It's Jim Eagle. More blacks voted in Georgia than ever before. The percentage of blacks increased. If the structure, how is it that the structure did not stop black people from voting in Georgia?
Well, I'm not talking about voting, sir. I'm talking about, and just to be fair, I think Joe Biden and what Joe Biden has did to African Americans, particularly with the war on drugs, was one of the worst things that actually happened to black people. Just to put that on the record, he too was a part of that system that I'm talking about. Democrats as well. I just try to stay balanced to say that same system it applies on both sides. Democrats and Republicans helped with mass incarceration. Joe Biden led it, wrote it. So we have no problem. I have no problem condemning him as a Democrat for what he's done. I'm just talking about institutions versus relations are just two totally different things. And that's just where we, just disagree with that. And that's okay.
Well, we didn't really get into mass incarceration, but most people who are behind bars because they committed a violent crime against somebody else. And often the black people who are behind bars committed a violent crime against another black person.
Well, when I'm talking about mass incarceration, I'm not talking about violent crimes. I'm talking about non-violent crimes, particularly the war on drugs. I was very clear in what I said.
I agree with you that I believe that the drug problem should be dealt with as a health problem rather than a criminal justice problem. But most people are not behind bars for using drugs or for dealing drugs. They're behind bars for having committed a violent act against another person.
Sure, but that wasn't what I was talking about. I was very clear when I talked about Joe Biden writing the crime bill and mass incarceration with war on drugs to non-violent offenders. So that's a different conversation. You're weaving the two together. So we just have a disagreement on institutions versus race relations, and that's okay.
Well, in order for you to go to jail, you have to commit a crime. If you walk down the street,
not always when you're black in America.
Well, where are the class action lawsuits, Charlamagne? We have all these black lawyers. Many black people have gone to law school. Where are the class action lawsuits claiming that a bunch of people are behind bars illegally, wrongfully? Where are they?
So you think everybody that's behind bars?
I didn't say that.
Behind bars
I didn't say that. Why don't you answer my question? Where are the class action lawsuits?
Well, you need money to do class
action
lawsuits.
You've had a black attorney general, Eric Holder. You had back-to-back black attorneys general, Eric Holder and then Loretta Lynch. Why didn't they release a whole bunch of people who are illegally behind bars? Why didn't they do that? You had a black president.
And I criticized them as well, went on record, because actually you're right. He lied and said that he was going to fix the crack cocaine disparity. So I went on record. You're right. And guess what? Guess who he works for? The system. So he's just a blackface that works for the system at the time. So again, we just disagree on systems and institutions versus black faces in high places.
Well, the disparity has been rectified. Now you go to jail for dealing powder as you do for dealing crack, and at one time there was a disparity.
No, you go to jail, but the ratio is not the same.
Well, because the dealers are not the same. For example,
No.
there are more white people behind bars for drunk driving than there are black people. There are certain
No,
categories
we're
of crime
talking
that
about
whites
drugs,
commit.
Mr. Elder. You're first. You're
Depends
talking
on
about
depends on the
crack
drug.
cocaine, then you go to
More
drinking.
whites are behind bars for meth than
You're
blacks
just
are.
going all over the place, sir. We were talking about, it's very clear.
You
mass
said drugs. It depends on the
incarceration, war
category
on
of
drugs,
drug.
crack
It depends on the category of drugs. More whites are involved in meth
Right,
than
but
blacks.
I gave you the category that I wanted to talk about, then you start talking about
Crack
drinking. You're just all over the
cocaine.
place, Mr. Elder, but it's okay. I
More-
get it.
He's mentioned in drugs. Right? You gotta let him
Yeah,
finish.
like he. mm.
She keep talking about he's weaving the conversation like he's answering your question. I mean, alcohol is a drug. I don't care what anybody says. But yeah,
But,
meth is
but he's
also.
doing something very particular. He started with saying drug dealing. And when you think like it's subtle wording, but when you think of drug dealer, you don't think of white man. He said violent crimes. And he made sure to say, well, the most people that are in jail for a violent crime. So they're savages, the beastmen, the people that are out here raping and killing are the only ones or the main ones behind bars. When we know that isn't true. The same way that he feels like Donald Trump is not a criminal, even though he's under an indictment. But you feel like everyone that is in jail, or most people that are in jail, are there because they committed a crime. And the victims of the drug act, the victims of the war on drugs, they're not all drug dealers. They're addicts. They're people that are users. And on average, more black men that are actually drug addicts are going to end up behind bars than the little white boys that are drug addicts. And opioids and Percocets and fucking prescription pills have been a rising problem, not only in the American community, but in the young white American community. And we haven't seen the numbers of young white men behind bars increasing in astronomical rates, even though they're ones committing violent crimes, shooting up schools, shooting up grocery stores, shooting up communities, and they're the ones also committing rapes, also committing these violent crimes that he says that are primarily black people, and don't feel too bad about it or be too scared about it because it's black people doing it to other black people. Again, very quick to say, like he's very good at, or America is very good at throwing the rock and hiding the hand. You know what I'm saying? It's saying, well, black people are responsible for this, but there's a responsibility that came first that's not being acknowledged. You know, we can acknowledge that black people have done this to ourselves. We can acknowledge that we have sipped the Kool-Aid that has been brought to us. We can acknowledge that the parties and the policies that we voted for, i.e. the Democrats, have been behind some of the most heinous things that happened to us. And what we're saying, I love the fact that was a great rhyme. She ended black faces in high places. That's literally what he's just playing. Like, I understand you're not looking for a fishing buddy in Donald Trump, but you should care that he just grabs women by the pussy. You should care that he called countries in Africa and all over the world shitholes. You should care that he's trying to keep some of the hardest working people in this country out of it. Like the talking points of 7 million illegal aliens. There's actual extraterrestrial aliens coming to this planet that I would love to hear a politician talking about. But you want to talk about illegal aliens. You want to talk about people that don't have documentation. And that's all what it's really whining on. That's what he's asking Charlemagne. Oh, all these black lawyers, and if all these things are so unfair for black people, how come there's no paper trail? How come there's no legal documentation of these things being done? Because these things get swept under the rug. That's what we're saying. Like, you can just go to jail when you can be an innocent black man and go to jail. The same way you think Trump is an innocent white man being indicted, you can be an innocent black man and go to jail. And that happens.
There's a mugshot right now too. I just saw that a few minutes ago. I just saw his mugshot like a few minutes ago too.
Trump got a mugshot?
Yeah, I just saw it like literally 2 minutes ago.
And think about it. He don't got a mugshot for grabbing bitches by the pussy. He don't got a mugshot for this is a man that cheated on his wife. This is a man that has been divorced and remarried. Like, these are things that used to not, like, if these are things that Obama had going on when he was running for president, they would have never elected him fucking president. Donald Trump literally said that I could stand in Times Square and shoot somebody and go up in the polls. And he did. He didn't shoot someone, but he went up in the polls. But I guarantee you, if he shot someone, he would have went up in the polls. And again, he's apologizing for this person, or we're not apologizing for them specifically, but you don't want to. He's very comfortable discrediting Black people and discrediting the efforts of.
I thought you were gonna say Democrats on top of it.
Yeah, discrediting the efforts of or what Democrats have done, or highlighting what Democrats have done or have not done, while hiding his hand or hiding the rock in his hand when it comes to the Republicans. You want to only highlight, well, Republicans are actually good in this way, and we're good in that way, and we're good in that way. And not to say that you aren't. Every political party has some positives to them, but over the course of history, we've seen that these two parties specifically have not as many positives when it comes to Black people, but they are very comfortable using Black people to say otherwise. And if not say otherwise, at least try to lead us away from the other party.
It's hard to argue all of that. I can agree with most of that. I don't know if he is a viable candidate. I don't think he's going to end up making it even.
White people ain't gonna run for him either.
Yeah, I don't think he's going to end up making the ticket. There's too many people in front of. I don't think if Trump's running, he's not going to make it. I don't think he has enough support. So
he's just there to procure.
He's not running at this point. He probably get more votes and more attention that way, even though it's not much of a thing to brag about either.
And even if it doesn't get to the Black community, even if it's not there for the Black vote, because we're living in a time where systemic racism does exist, and we're more vocal about our hatreds, it doesn't have to be a Black. Like other people are going to latch on to his message. You know what I'm saying? The only thing that he just used, and this is what he used to say that systematic racism doesn't exist. He used the paper trail. Well, I don't think it exists since the Civil Rights Movement of 1964, since Brown versus Board of Education, since the interracial love law. Like, you don't think systematic racism exists because the system said that, okay, race no longer matters in this specific way. So you feel like because the system gave us a paper trail, gave us a legal documented instance of which race no longer, quote unquote, matters, that gives you I feel like that gives him the right to say how other things have gotten swept under the rug. Because whereas you feel like Trayvon Martin didn't happen because of race, I disagree. I strongly feel like there are a bunch of white kids walking around my neighborhood that just make me feel nervous, but I don't just feel comfortable to follow them around with a firearm. Not the way that, again, back to the fucking Alabama brawl. These white men were going to beat the fuck dog shit to death out of that Black man, and they felt comfortable doing it. Like the report that I saw you, white men felt comfortable chasing a Black FedEx worker with guns. There's a comfortability that a certain race, white people, have in this country that other races do not have, particularly the Black race. Yes, other races are allowed to progress and do things and build their own communities, but that's because there are no systematic things put in place to halt them from their progress, because those communities of people also vote in the ways that the white people want them to. Hispanic people predominantly vote Republican. White people, there's so many of them, they vote right down the middle. You know what I'm saying? The politicians are always going to play those sides against each other. I don't know exactly who Asian people vote for. I truly don't know their political party. Like, and again, it's only Black people who have these public, open discussions about who we're going to vote for, who we're not going to vote for. And these parties know that. That's why they gear things towards us in a very specific, very media savvy way.
We're going to end it on that note then. All right, well, appreciate that. If I had a segment we're going to do with her and you, I still could do it. It was actually going to be a game, but damn.
Oh, damn. Yeah, we need more. If it's going to be a game, we need more contestants. We'll do it next week.
Yeah, we'll do it next week. I'll say it next week. With that. We're going to end it there. We're going to end a nice show there on there, because I kind of figured that was going to be a long one, though, because we had to look at a whole
Yeah, we have to look back through this whole interview. I did like, just goddamn. I actually, fun fact about me, I blocked the Breakfast Club on YouTube.
Yeah, maybe you told me.
Because Charlemagne, I'm not gonna lie, like that was a good point. It's like Charlemagne, you did sit here and let this motherfucker Joe Biden say you ain't black if you ain't voting for me. That's what let me know. I agree.
Oh, don't forget that. Was Hillary on that show when she did the hot sauce in the purse thing?
Probably. Shit.
When she's like, yeah, I eat my food with hot sauce. She was around some black people, I know, but I thought it was breakfast.
Definitely was. Like we let them. They know how to play the game. They know where to be so that they white faces can be seen by our black faces, because we vote and we choose things and we consume things based upon familiarity. You don't get you mainly get Doritos, not because they taste better than cheesy triangles, but because you used to seeing Doritos all over. You used to seeing the commercials. You used to seeing them at school. You used to seeing them at your friend's house.
It was the Breakfast Club. She was on the Breakfast Club when she did that.
Of course. Where else was she gonna go?
She said she always carries hot sauce in her purse. A clear attempt to snag New York's black vote. Yep.
And it's like, what did that have to do with her policies? You know what I'm
That's
saying?
what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. It's either about sex, food, or just money. You know, like quick money, whatever. When it comes to getting the black vote, it's all about those three things: sex, quick money, and good food, hot sauce. That's all we care about, obviously, and that's what they aimed at to advertise. Oh, music, my fault. Music. That's where
music. We're gonna play on your trauma. We're gonna play on, or we're gonna bring up them boogeymen. That's the other type of political advertising. If we can't make you feel like we're the good guys, we're just gonna try to overly convince you that the other guys are really the bad guys. Like if we can't make you love us, we'll settle for making you hate them.
All right, we're gonna wrap it up. Thanks for y'all coming on and listening to Hostile Therapy. We're talking about future presidential candidates. We got one more year. So it's around the corner, man.
For mayor in Vietnam. So it starts at the city level, folks.
Just go study your politician. Don't vote for them just because they're Democrat or Republican, or because they have a nice song that's out now that talks about going to vote, or they go eat at Popeye's Chicken or Krispy Kreme, so they make appearances and they kiss your baby. You know,
yeah, I've seen this in like black Twitter and shit. Like the black Democrats that literally they're probably bots. It's probably bot accounts with black faces, but yeah, they be commenting on ghetto ass pictures of Joe Biden, like when he shows up to black Democrat rallies and he takes a picture bending down. And you see the comments, oh shit, he hit the pose, and it's got like 2,000 retweets. I'm like, oh my God, why? Like that's gonna lead to fucking 2,000 votes right there.
He got to do one thing to be invited to the barbecue. Yep, that right there. That gets him invited to the barbecue, and he's forever tattooed on our hearts. That's why let's vote for him.
All he has to do is say one viral thing. It's like, well, me and my family, we went to the coast of Malibu to go a little swag surfing.
Yeah. See, that's another thing too. That's the thing about family. Like family, husband, wife, girlfriend, boyfriend. These are things you got to talk about. For the family, who you vote for, and how this is going to affect your community, or your family. And we don't do enough vetting for presidents. We don't do enough vetting, I guess, for relationships. Period, of any kind, unless it's for a job. Or for some concert we need to go to. We need to figure out what hotels we're going to go to.
Or some clout.
Yeah. Or plane tickets or car rides we need to worry about to go see our favorite musical concert. Then we vet. We don't vet for the things that affect us long term. It's only short term.
We don't think long term. Like
a lot of that's the thing right there. We should think very short term. We don't think
a lot of us were told we wouldn't make it to 21. So when we get to 21, it's like we've literally hit. It's like oh shit, I'm alive at 22, glass ceiling. Now all I got to do is just coast. Now, so what else is life? Like our perspective of success and our knowledge of our potential is very shallow, and it truly starts with that peering inside and getting out of the employee mindset, getting out of getting out of the selfish mindset. I don't need a woman in my life, or I don't need to bond with an actual woman on an emotional level. I don't need to have a man here to help me raise this child. I don't need to leave, or I'm too afraid to leave my job. I'm too afraid to actually try to be my own boss and learn this information about banking and financing and owning some shit and putting my name on things so that I can have a legal paper trail of things that I can own, share with, bring to, and then leave for the people that I love most in this world, so that the people that I love, the people that they love, and the community that we love is much better from us being there and from us pouring into it.
Well said. All right, guys, this has been Hostile Therapy with Big Red and Lord Trent. We'll be back next week. We get to play this game that I got lined up.
I'm excited. I want to play this game now.
Yeah, there may be prizes this time. I ain't had no money this week. So.
You play for snack cakes. Like, oh shit, 60 days in comes out. Fucking.
Calm down.
Speaking of the fucking private prison system.
Oh boy, okay. We will see
Yeah,
y'all on
Cape
the
County,
next.
North Carolina.
We'll see y'all on the next show. Appreciate you, LT, for coming on, and everybody else taking a listen, getting Hostile Therapy, not because you want it, but because you need it. See you next week, guys.
Peace. Free Palestine.